Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto returns with a wife and child. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Maverick9871 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. I don't know Naruto. It had been 6 months since Naruto returned from his 2.5-year training trip with Jiraiya, and he was now 16 years old. Akatsuki was destroyed. Both Uchiha brothers killed each other, and Naruto took out the leader somehow, which was a mystery on itself, but with the leader's ring as proof they agreed with his story. Naruto now finds himself at the finals of the Chunin exam's final round in Konoha. He is fighting a nin from IWA named Argon. Naruto is cleaning the floor with him though, and everyone is excited about it. The village may hate Naruto for Kyuubi, but they hate IWA more. Tsunade is watching the matches with the Kage from IWA and also Gaara the Kazekage. The IWA Kage said, "I hate this blondes from this village who use wind attacks. He looks like the Yondaime." Tsunade just nodded her head and left it at that. The Rookie 9 guys team and the Sand Sibs besides Gaara, who is Kazekage, and Sasuke, who is dead, are all together cheering him on. Ayam is sitting with them and has a little 9-month-old baby with her on her lap who is watching the matches giggling. Sakura is sitting next to her and said, "It's good that you got to come watch Naruto, Ayam. Too bad you had to bring that baby." Ayam smiled and said, "Oh, she is no trouble, and any time I can watch little Yuna is okay with me. She's a little angel. Besides, her father did not want her to miss something as important as this." Sakura smiled and said, "Who is her parents anyways? I seen you with her a few times in the past couple of months but have never heard you say." Ayam said her father is a friend. "I never met her mom as she died shortly after Yuna was born, but I know of her. He is a pretty nice guy, but I promised I would not tell who he is because he is ninja that has a lot of people who would like to find a weakness, so he hides her as best as he can. I am probably the only person who knows who he is though. Isn't that right, Yuna?" Looking at the baby who is watching the matches giggling a little. Sakura had heard requests like that before. He most likely was an ABNU or Hunter Nin, so she won't press it. Sakura turns back to the match and sees Naruto use a Kamitachi with a shadow clone that hinged into a fan. Naruto hits his opponent and sends him flying toward the wall, but the IWA Nin creates a wall of mud to cushion him. Just then a gust of wind hits her from the side and also knocks the hat off of the guy in front on her. She looks around because she thought she felt chakra in that, and she notices Temari also looking in her direction, but the only people beside her are Ayam and the baby, and either of them are ninja. She shrugs it off and screams, "Come on and finish it, Naruto." And the rest of the Rookie 9 cheer also. Naruto then performs Fire Style, Phoenix Fireball Jutsu, and sends it toward the IWA Nin, who makes an earth wall to block it, but Sakura's attention is then pulled away from the arena because the seat in front of Ayam has a small fire on it, and Sakura throws her soda on it, putting it out, and Ayam is wide-eyed as she sees it, and Sakura looks down and notices two things that freezes her to the core. One is the baby is copying hand seals Naruto was doing, and the second is the baby's eyes. Inside her eyes is a single Kama Sharingan. Sakura gasped, getting the attention of everyone that had saw the fire, and her throwing her soda on it. They all looked at Sakura but only saw the baby, whose eyes went back to her normal blue color. Ayam already knows what it is she saw because she had seen it before, and she stands up and turns to leave when Sakura grabs her arm and said, "Ayam, let me see that child." Ayam said, "Sakura, please drop it. You don't want to do this here." Sakura said, "I'm not dropping anything, Ayam. I know what I saw." "How does that girl have?" She was interrupted by the IWA Nin, who was in the ring, flying into the seat beside Sakura, getting the attention of everyone that had turned to look at Sakura. Naruto smiled and said, "I guess that futon jutsu was too much for him." Scratching the back of his head in embarrassment, looking up at his friends. Everyone laughs at typical Naruto. Sakura turns back and sees Ayam gone with the baby. She turns to head to Tsunade to tell her what she saw when the crowd had all started to stand and leave. The matches were over and Naruto won the match, but would not find out if he made Chunin till later. He quickly left through the contestants' entrance as Sakura ran to the Kage box. She got there. Tsunade was pocketing the money she won agents the IWA Kage who bet agents Naruto as he left. Gaara saw her run up and said, "Hello Agent Sakura, how are you today?" Sakura said, "We got a problem, Tsunade-sensei." Tsunade looked at her and asked, "What's wrong, Sakura? You act like you just saw a ghost." Sakura said, "When the matches were going on, Ayam, the girl from the ramen stand, was sitting beside me with a baby in her lap." Tsunade smiled and said, "What's wrong with that, Sakura? Are you starting to feel your clock ticking or something?" Sakura said, "Sensei, this is important. The baby had a Sharingan." Getting both Tsunade and Gaara's attention, Tsunade looks at her serious, and said, "Are you sure about that, Sakura?" Sakura said, "Yes, I had asked Ayam earlier who the baby's parents were, and she told me her mother passed away shortly after she was born. However, she said her father was a ninja that had lots of enemies looking for a weakness to exploit, so she would not tell me who. I heard of similar stuff from ABNU and Hunter Nin, so I dismissed it at first, but after I saw that, and she was also coping Naruto jutsu, she made a wind jutsu and a fire jutsu." Tsunade looked concerned about this and said, "Get her, Sakura, but do not tell anyone about what you saw or about this. Bring her to my office and bring the baby." Sakura nodded and left, and Gaara said, "What do you think, Tsunade?" Tsunade said right now I don't know, but either another Uchiha is out there, which I doubt, or she is a child of Itachi or Sasuke. Until I find out, please don't tell anyone, Gaara. I will let you know as soon as I find out though. Gaara nodded and left, and Tsunade quickly went to her office. Meanwhile Sakura had found Ayam walking into her family ramen stand and stopped her, and asked, "Come with me, Ayam, and where is Yuna?" Ayam pulled out a piece of paper and said her father said to give this to you and it would explain everything. I told him what happened and he took her home. That's all I can do. He said read it, and you will know. Sakura looked at the note, and it said, I will meet you, Sakura, at the Hokage's office at 9 o'clock sharp tonight with the rest of the Rookie 9 guys team, Theer Senseis, and Tsunade and the Sand Sibs. No one else. I will answer your questions the best that I can, but you must keep it a secret, and if any ABNU or anyone else is there I won't show. Kaza. Sakura quickly ran back to the Hokage office and handed the note to Tsunade, who read it, and sighed before nodding, and she said, get those people notified and do as it said. This is too important to screw up, Sakura. Sakura nodded and left, and found Kakashi at the memorial stone, Gaara at the hotel he had rented a room at with his siblings, and she was looking for Naruto and found him at the ramen stand talking with Ayam when she walked up. Ayam smiled and said, hello Agi and Sakura. I was just congratulating Naruto on winning the tournament. Sakura smiled and said, Naruto, you are to be at the Hokage office tonight at 8:45, so don't be late, and congrats on doing a great job. Naruto swallowed the ramen and said thanks, Sakura-kun. See you later. Sakura nodded and left to find the rest. After she was gone, Naruto sighed and said it was bound to happen sooner or later, wasn't it, Ayam? Ayam frowned and said, don't worry, everything will work out. I know it. Naruto sighed and said thanks, I just wish it was not so soon. You know what will happen if it goes bad, right? Ayam nodded and said, Yuna has a good father. She lucky. Naruto smiled and said, yeah, she does, and you are also nice to her. You will make a good mom someday. I hope she gets to spend time with him though. As his smile faded thinking about it, Ayam said he will, and who knows? I might find out one day. As she walked into the back of the stand and Naruto walked into an ally and went up in a puff of smoke. While that was happening in an apartment across town, a man was sitting in a chair looking at the little baby who was asleep in a baby bed and smiled, saying, I miss your mommy so much. I wish she could be here now and tell me what to do. Flashback almost 2 years earlier. A brown-haired, brown-eyed woman was in the bathhouse soaking when a disturbance on the other side and a scream of Erosanin. Quick peeking and train me brought the attention of everyone in the bathhouse. Women started getting up and wrapping themselves in towels before charging around to the men's side, and then the sound of beatings could be heard and the wall exploded, and a white-haired man was seen laying on the pieces of the wall. The woman sighed as she recognized the man as her senseis, but then she looked and her heart stopped as she notices the spitting image of a man who died nearly 14 years ago. She narrowed her eyes and thought, can't be. He died. She covered herself, and quickly got dressed and followed the blonde-haired kid that was dragging his sensei out of the bathhouse. She watched as he led him to a hotel and threw him in a water trough outside the hotel before going on to a ramen stand down the road. She followed the blonde and walked into the stand and sat down beside him and said, hello, I'm Rin. You would not happen to be from Konoha, would you? The guy turned and looked at her, and said, what makes you say that? Rin smiled and said, you look like someone I used to know. I thought you might be his son. Naruto perked up at this and said, the name's Naruto Uzumaki. Rin looked at him and laughed, and said, I will be damned. You really are alive after all. Tell me, do you have either of your parents' bloodlines? Making Naruto wide-eyed at her, and she said, relax. Let me guess, the third never told you who your dad was and also your mom, but I happen to have been a student of your dad's, and he gave me a mission I was to do when I saw you but was told you died. Looks like I will get to finish my mission after all. As she reached into her travel bag and pulled out a sealed scroll and handed it to him, Naruto looked at her, and said, who was my parents? Rin looked around and said, open the scroll and I am sure you will know, just add blood. Naruto quickly bit his thumb and opened the scroll and 3 scrolls popped out. One labeled Hiraishin and Rasengan, and one had the name Kazama and the other Uchiha listed on it. Naruto then opened the Kazama and read it, and finally got some answers. He then read the one that said Uchiha and knew the whole truth then, and asked, how did you know who I was? Rin smiled and said, you look like your dad except for the whiskers, but I could guess what Theer from knowing what happened to your dad and knowing what type of person he was. After you said Uzumaki I knew because besides myself only the third knows where that name came from. Naruto heard a groan coming from behind him and saw Jiraiya coming toward him, and when he turned back there was money on the table to pay for the meal as well as a note which said we will talk later in private. I hate the pervert. Flashback end. The man smiled as he remembered their first meeting and then a flash of a sadder time passed before his eyes. Flashback less than 9 months ago. Naruto looked down at Rin who looked weak and tired as she looked up at him and smiled before saying, promise me Naruto. Promise that you will move on and find happiness in your life for not only you but her also. If you do that I can pass on happy. Naruto nodded before saying I promise. Rin sighed and said one more thing Naruto tell Kakashi to let Obito's spirit rest, and we will see him on the other side and also I love you and will wait for you also with your parents. As she took the last of her strength and leaned forward and kissed him before falling back down on the bed in an endless sleep. End flashback. Later that night when Naruto walked into the room and saw Gaara and Tsunade already there, Naruto smiled and said, "So what's this about Granny?" Tsunade had an eyebrow twitched and Gaara smiled and said, "It's good to see you, Agi and Naruto. How have you been, and also good match." Naruto said, "Thanks, and I have been fine. Could be better, but life's like that anyways." Sakura walked in with Kakashi being dragged behind her with her super strength, and Kakashi said, "Is this really necessary?" Sakura said, "Yes, Tsunade orders. It's too important that things work out if he is what we think he is." I am walked in the door and Tsunade said, "I am, why are you here?" "I was told not to let." I am said, "I was asked by her father to come." Going and sitting down in a chair by Naruto, who was looking at her questioningly. The rest of the guests came in and had a seat looking around. Naruto, who had sat down, against the wall in the corner, and said, "What do you think he is, and who is he?" Sakura, covering his eyes with his hair as his headband was on his arm, making everyone look at Sakura. Sakura looked at him and said, "A Sharingan holder, Naruto. Do you know what will happen if he is?" "The people will cheer." Naruto said, "I doubt it, Sakura. If this guy is a Sharingan holder, and has been hiding all these years, there must be a reason that you don't know of," as he still had his eyes covered. Sakura said, "I know that already, Naruto." A voice from the window said, "Then why don't you listen to it, Sakura?" Making everyone turn to look, and a man with a black cloak and a face mask that only showed his eyes, but it had 3 commas in it, and his hair was covered as well so no one could see anything about him. His voice was distorted as well. Tsunade said, "I see you do have a Sharingan, and by the fact your daughter has one, then that must mean you are an Uchiha." The man said partially, "I am only half Uchiha, as of the other half I won't tell because it might tell you who I am. The Sandaime had me hide my heritage so Itachi would not discover me and come to finish the job," as his eyes turned into the final level of the Sharingan, making everyone gasp. The man said, "I did not kill my best friend to get this, if that is what you are all thinking. I got it when my first true love and mother of my daughter who passed away recently, and I blamed myself for not being able to cure her disease that claimed her life. She asked me to deliver a message to you though, Kakashi. Let Obito's spirit rest, and they will meet you on the other side." Kakashi looked at the man wide-eyed and said, "Who is she?" The man said in a sad tone, "Rin. She passed away from a type of cancer that she was unable to cure. I only knowed her for a year, but I loved her dearly and made her last days as peaceful as possible. She died about a week after giving birth to Yuna, but her memory will live on in our daughter." Kakashi closed his eye and let a tear fall as he turned sideways to hide his emotions, and then after a moment of silence he asked why the cage bunshin Naruto, making everyone in the room look at him, and Kakashi looked at Naruto. Naruto asked, "What are you?" He was cut off as a kunai hit him, making him go up in a puff of smoke. Kakashi then turned to the man who was leaning against the wall and said, "Why the big shirade, Naruto? You almost got away. If I had not noticed the slight fluctuation in chakra from both you and the cage bunshin at the same time when I turned, I would never have noticed." The man sighed and his voice changed and said, "Why could you have not kept your damn mouth shut, Kakashi, and asked me in private? Now that you know the truth about part of my heritage, the council will try and hurt my daughter," making everyone wide-eyed as he removed his covering over his head and still had the Sharingan. Everyone was thinking daughter. Tsunade looked at Naruto as another Naruto walked in the window with the sleeping form of a baby, which the real Naruto walked over and got, and the clone went up in smoke. "All the girls pretty much," said Kawi, softly, not to wake the baby. Naruto walked over and sat down in a chair and gently rocked the baby girl in his arms and said, "I guess you all have a lot of questions, huh? And I am. Thanks for coming even though I did not ask you to." "I am," said Naruto. "I have helped you part of the time with Yuna and I feel like she's my daughter in a way, so I want to know what's going to happen to her." Sakura finally got over her shock and said, "Naruto, is that baby really your daughter?" Naruto nodded and said, "Yes, I met her mother while I was traveling with Erosanin. She recognized me when I made him get caught doing his research because I looked so much like my dad, and she also knowed where my last name came from and gave me something he left for me. The Hiratian scrolls as well as a letter from him and mom. We started as friends and then became more, but she had already found out she was dying. She secretly followed with a cage bunshin of me everywhere we went, so Erosanin never found out, and since I was alone at least 15 hours a day it was pretty easy. She had a rare form of cancer that she tried to find a cure for, and it slowly killed her over the years. She wanted to live her last part of her life happy, and we spent every moment together that we could in secret. We knew if Erosanin found out he would not have allowed it since we were on the run from Atasuki. Erosanin never found out, and still don't know." Tsunade looked on at Naruto, and asked, "If your father left you the Hiratian, then that means he is." Naruto said, "Arisha Kazama, the Yondaime Hokage, and the one who sealed Kyuubi and me and my mother was Uchiha Hinata. Sasuke and they both died the day I was born. Mom had already been told she would not live through labor, but she did it anyways. As far as I know, only the third, Rin, and myself knew the truth before this, though. I am and her dad suspected but never would voice it. The third never would tell me who they were because he said it was for my own protection, like keeping by bloodline's secret." Kakashi looked down and said, "I'm sorry, Naruto. If I had." Naruto looked at him and said in a neutral voice, "Don't. You can't change the past, and it's okay. The only thing I care about is Yuna here now. I have had to hide her existence for the last 9 months of her life since her mother died, and I just was trying to keep her safe. If it had not been for I am and her dad, I would probably have become a missing meme to protect her, shocking everyone. Tsunade said, how long have you know about the Sharingan Naruto? Naruto looked at her, and said I had it activated the moment Kyuubi was sealed in me according to the third. When he picked me up on the battlefield it was showing, so the third put a genjutsu over my eyes so no one would notice that it was on. After he died I had cast the genjutsu myself. Sakura said, but you sucked at genjutsu Naruto. Naruto looked at her, and said I lied so no one would think to check me for a genjutsu because of the hate the people of this village has for me. As he rocked the girl in his arms, Tsunade said as she sat down, so that's why you've been doing all those D-rank missions lately? Naruto nodded and said taking care of a baby by yourself is not easy. It was not until the Gaara retrieval mission that anyone found out about her, and I told the only people in the village I could trust. I am and her dad. Everyone was hurt by those words and Kakashi said, why did you not trust us, Naruto? Naruto said, simple, look what happened and all of you were thinking the moment Yuna revealed her Sharingan. Add to the fact that almost the entire council hates me, they would either remove her eyes and kill her to spite me or try and make her a weapon or breeding stock, and as Hokage, Tsunade has to reveal it to them. Sakura would have to tell Tsunade and Ino since she can't lie to either of them and get away with it, and as for you Kakashi, I finally got your respect and proper training after I came back with Jiraiya. Before that you focused on Sasuke and I believed you blamed me for Dad's death, or at least that's what I felt, but I've forgiven you for it. If you would have learned who I really was you would have transferred your debt to me instead of him, or worse lashed out at me for bringing up memories of Dad and Obito. As for the rest of the people in this room, none of you could have hid a baby in your clans without explaining, and then word would have gotten to the council. I could not send her to Suna either because of the problems with Atasuki. The senseis might have been able to help, but after Asum died only Kurenai and Guy were the only options since I was not sure of Kakashi at the time, but with Kurenai already having a little one to take care of and Konohamaru, Ero-sanin would have used her to hit on women. Guy would have had her in spandex, which I would have killed him over. As he looked down at the little girl in his arms and smiled, Kurenai said, how much sleep do you get, Naruto? I know taking care of mine with help is tiring, and if you're doing missions also then. Naruto said, I sleep 1 day a week and that's it. The rest of the time I may get 20 minutes here and there if I have my summons watch me and her, and Kyuubi keeps my senses active. Making everyone shocked by what he has done for his daughter, Tsunade rubbed her temples and said, you really are a headache, Naruto. Naruto closed his eyes and said, she also has the other one also like I do. Making everyone in the room look at him as he opened his eyes and a different pattern appeared. This time a 4-line diamond, and Kakashi had huge eyes as he said, that's the diamond eye. Sakura looked confused as Naruto returned his eyes to normal blue and said, what's the diamond eye? Tsunade looked at her and said, it's like the Sharingan, but instead of copying jutsu it copies and breaks down seals so that they can be made into new ones. It is the bloodline of the Kazama clan. As of now only 3 people have ever had them. Erasure, Naruto and his daughter. Naruto asked, so what are you going to do now? Tsunade said, word has already spread about a possible Sharingan Aegean. Sakura was not the only one to notice it at the stadium today. I had a few citizens and also a couple of Aegean you come to me today, so odds are word has already reached the council. Naruto looked at her and said, I don't care what happens to me, but I won't let anyone hurt her or take her away from me, Tsunade. I will feed another person to Kyuubi if I have to. Kakashi looked questionable at that, and Sakura asked, what do you mean feed another person to Kyuubi, Naruto? Naruto smirked and said, ever wondered how I really beat the leader? Thanks to the rescue mission of Sasuke on the sound base I learned a new ability of the Sharingan that nobody thought of. Everyone looked at him and Kakashi asked what? Naruto said in a neutral tone, as you know Kakashi from our battle with Deidara, that you can open a portal to a different dimension and send stuff to, but Sasuke did another thing. He went into a pocket dimension, or more specifically he went inside the seal and met Kyuubi and stopped his power, but I learned because of that I can send others there as well. Tsunade said, you don't mean that? Naruto said, yes, I sent the leader to Kyuubi's cage after I used Hiraishin on him as well as beat him down. I allowed him to be eaten by the very thing he wanted to control. Kyuubi has also taken a liking to my daughter, and has sworn his protection of her also and any other children I may have someday, so I won't have any problem feeding more people to him. Making everyone in the room pale when they finally realized what he was willing to do for his daughter. Tsunade looked at Naruto and asked, do you still have the letters your parents left for you? Naruto reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 scrolls that had the seal broken on them, and Tsunade opened them and read a moment before handing them back. Tsunade thought for a moment after reading them and looked at the Hokage's pictures on the wall and stopped on her grandfather and said, Gaara, come here a moment. I need to ask you something. Everyone looked at her as Gaara walked over and she whispered in his ear, and he thought for a moment and nodded, getting an evil grin that everyone in the room feared. Tsunade got everyone's attention and said, Naruto, you really are my lucky charm. How about a way to make sure you and your daughter are taken care of and also fix a few other headaches I received because of you? Making everyone in the room look at her questionably as she got a huge smirk that they all learned meant she was about to bet it all. Naruto nodded slowly so she knew he was listening, and she said, I can guarantee the safety of you children and also please the council so they can't hurt you or them, and also give the village back both bloodlines you and her carry as well as a third. Naruto thought for a moment and said, I won't let Yuna be breeding stock, Granny. Tsunade smiled at the protectiveness of Naruto and said, no, this would not work on her since she has at least 13 years before it would even come up, and my idea would start tomorrow. You may have to give up your dream of being Hokage for a few years though. Naruto narrowed his eyes and said, "What do you have up your sleeves, Granny?" Tsunade smirked with a look of gotcha and said, "Simple, a harem for you." Making Naruto eyes as wide as a silver dollar, and he said, "No." Making everyone in the room shocked. Tsunade looked taken back and said, "What do you mean, no, Naruto? I can use the clan restoration law, and it gives not only you but also your children protection backed by every clan of Konoha whether they like it or not. Besides, you're already engaged to 2 people in this room." Making everyone in the room wide-eyed and all look at each other. Naruto looked at her, and said, "I learned with my time with Rin I would only be with a woman for love, not sex, so I won't just bang any woman I see. I want it to be special and have a real family for my children to grow up with. Something I never had. I also don't want women who see me as only the Kyuubi or the son of the Yondaime. And what do you mean I'm engaged to 2 people in this room?" As he looked questionable at her along with everyone else. Tsunade sat back and said, "Let me tell you about my other headaches you have caused me since you are now 16 first. Do you know someone named Yuki?" Naruto thought for a moment and said, "Yes, she's the princess of Snow Country that Team 7 saved." "Why?" Tsunade ignored him and said, "Do you know the adopted daughter of Tazuna named Haku?" Naruto dropped all questions right there and said, "How the hell did you find out about her?" In a commanding voice, shocking everyone in the room. Sakura thought for a moment and said, "Isn't Haku the name of that nin Kakashi killed in Wave with his Chidori?" "You said she was a guy, Naruto." Kakashi looked at Naruto and said, "Naruto, why do I think you're not telling us something?" Naruto sighed and said, "Haku did die on the bridge in Wave Country for about 20 seconds until I used the last of Kyuubi's chakra in my system to heal her while you and Zabuza mouthed each other. Sakura and Tazuna had ran towards Sasuke, so they did not know. I told you I would take care of his body so you would not find out he was a she and also that she was still alive. I asked Tazuna to look after her for me and I sent money to Wave Country to help them support her until she recovered, and then they adopted her. She was not an actual ninja from Mist because they kill all bloodline users there, and won't let them be ninja, but she was trained by Zabuza. Now what does this have to do with her?" Tsunade smiled and said, "What about Sasami of the Fuma clan?" Naruto thought for a moment and blushed and said, "Yeah, she was the nin who tried to kill us when we were looking for Sasuke, but she was actually a good person. Orochimaru tricked her clan." Tsunade noticed the shocked looks as the people Naruto had met as she asked, "What about Toki of the Land of Birds? Niji and Tenten remember this?" And Naruto said, "Yes, Niji and Tenten went with me and saved her and her country from a jerk." Tsunade ignored all the questioning looks and said, "What about Isarabi?" Naruto smiles and said, "She was a girl who was experimented on by Orochimaru's men, and they made her able to breathe underwater. You fixed her transformation, but the rest could not be helped, so she's like a bloodline now. Last I heard, she was the chief fishing investment officer for the Land of Sea, since she can show the fishermen where to find the best catches, and was one of the 3 most powerful people there." Tsunade said, "And Haruna of Vegetable?" Naruto thought and said, "She the princess who hit Hinata and almost got her killed and also was kidnapped as a child." "Why are you asking me about all these women, Tsunade?" Tsunade ignored him and said, "What about Yakuma of the Kurama clan? Kurenai attention is drawn by that, and Naruto said she kidnapped Kurenai when a creature tricked her. We helped her overcome the creature's lies." Kiba said, "Man, you sure did had luck with the damsel in distress category." Tsunade smiled and said, "I'm glad you remember all of them, Naruto, because they all remember you and more importantly how much you made them feel." Everyone was looking at Naruto, and he said, "What do you mean?" Sakura asked, "What are you talking about, Sensei?" Tsunade said, "Simple. Each and every one of those women are very influential in either their clans or countries. So influential that they have sent very big offers with the backing of their clans or countries to propose an arranged marriage, but not with Konoha. With Naruto only." Making everyone wide-eyed as she said that. Tsunade waited till they got over their shock and said, "Also, Hinata, you are both betrothed to the Kazama heir, or in this case Naruto, before he was born." Making Hinata faint and Ino look at Naruto. Sakura walked over and woke her up with a medical jutsu and watched the meeting going on. Gaara smiled and said, "Also, you are to be married to a ninja from Suna, as well as a form of peace treaty between our villages." Tamari said, "Who's the poor girl getting in this mess, Gaara?" Smugly, Gaara said, "Simple. You." And smirked to himself as she went wide-eyed and wanted to kill him for that. She said, "But what if I don't want to be with him?" Gaara raised an eyebrow and said, "Do you have anyone now? I know you have dated the shadow user, but I thought it had not worked out." Tamari sighed and said, "Yeah, that's true, but you could have asked me before deciding for me." Gaara smiled and said, "Truth is, it was not my choice to begin with anyways. The children of the Yondaime Hokage and Kazekage were to be wed depending on gender. I had came to Tsunade after Atatsuki defeat and asked her who was the heir. We both thought there was not one, and so here we are. If Naruto would have been a girl, it would have been Kankuro then." Blame father. In a neutral tone, Naruto sighed and said, "Have you all not forgot something?" "I have not agreed, and also how will this help exactly?" Tsunade nodded as his question and said, "Simple. With all those powers backing you, as well as you creating 3 clans with you the head of all 3, then you will be protected by the clan laws, and the rest of the clans have to support it or lose all rights as clans, including protections, lands, and council seats." Naruto said, "What 3 clans? I can see 2, but what's the third?" Tsunade said, "Simple. You are the only Uchiha left, even though you are half Uchiha. You are also the last Kazama, which you are also a half of, but you are also the clan that was to be created with you when the 2 clans joined. I did not know you were alive when I read the notes the third had on it, but a new clan was to be performed by the join-in of the Uchiha and Kazama clan. It was arranged by both their respective parents when the children were young. Until now I never knew what name it was to be. It's the Uzumaki clan, so here is my plan. Since we know how to seal bloodlines, we can have you father 1/3 of your wives and have them seal off the Sharingan or the Diamond Eye, and the Uzumaki clan will have both, like you and your daughter Yuna. As long as you produce 15 hires each, it will be okay. Naruto thought for a moment, and said that won't work because how can 2 or 3 wives be enough to ensure the bloodlines to get the 15 children for each clan as well as agree to share me? Tsunade smiled and said that's where you other wives will come in, and as for the last part one will explain at the council meeting. As she wrote something on a piece of paper, Naruto said, what other wives? Tsunade handed him the paper and read it before dropping it, and said, you want to get me killed, don't you? Tsunade said, do any of them think of you as Kyuubi or the son of the Yondaime? Naruto said no, but Tsunade said, do you not care for any of them? Naruto said, I do care for them, but Tsunade said, it's settled then? Naruto said, but they won't agree and I don't want to pressure them into something like this. Tsunade said, you won't be. I will. As she smiled an evil grin, Kiba said, what's wrong, Naruto? You're living almost every guy's dream, so who's the ladies you'd get to bang? As he picks up the list and reads it, and said, that's my sister you're pimping, you want me to kill him or something? Kakashi grabbed the list and said, let's see who we got. Damn, Naruto. You got lucky. Guy said, who is it, my youthful rival? Kakashi said, oh just, Tenten, Sakura, Hana, Shizen, Ayam, Enko, Haku, Sasami, Ino, Temari, Hinata, Yuki, Toki, Haruna, Yakuma, Isarabi, that's all. Sakura said, I don't want to have kids with Naruto. Tenten said, what about my wants? Ayam said, I'm not a ninja so you can't force me. Tsunade looked at them and said, relax. Ayam, you already said you feel like a mother to Yuna, so I put you on, but that is only for show unless you don't want to be a part of Naruto new family. That will be just the cover story we are going to use for 1 year, while those who don't want to marry Naruto will be paid an S-rank mission out of the joint Kazama and Uchiha accounts pocket, so that way Naruto can either find him some more wives that will have children with him that fall in his restrictions, but also help protect his wives from out of the village, and also his daughter and any other children that come along. Do you realize how bad it would be if one of those ladies were killed, and we had not shown any kind of protection for them? Tenten is a master of weapons and traps. Sakura and Shizen are both great medics and can cure almost anything should someone be attacked or other problems. Ayam will be going from what she said earlier, as well as teach the wives how to take care of a baby. Ino and Hinata, I can't help you unless your fathers break the contract, but if Naruto does have to go to Suna, my plan might work, but will take Naruto greatest strength. The ability to piss people off, and when I say people I mean Hayashi and Inoichi. Enko will be sent with you also because of her interrogation and Abnu skills. Hana will be added to the fact she can smell if anyone is not who they say they are, and also help with security of the new Uzumaki compound that we will build for them. As of right now, the women on that list will be the only ones besides in this room who know the truth, and if anyone asks you as your bodyguard duties, you will say you are his fiancé. That is if things work like I got planned. I am not so cold-hearted that I will force people to have sex and babies for bloodlines. What I am going to do is have the council bow to my wishes and make everything right for Naruto and his children, so he won't have to worry. If my plan fails, then you all won't have to worry about it, because he will no longer be a Konoha shinobi but one of Suna if Gaara agrees to that. Those of you who will be bodyguards will have to do it for less than 2 years, so that way Naruto can actually start the clans and the council will see results and back down. Looking at Gaara getting a nod when she mentioned the backup plan, Tsunade looked at the females in the room and said, do you all agree to that? I know you may not like the mission, but it is one that has to be done. Temari, I can't rule on you, so you're stuck with Gaara's decision, but he might let you off. All the girls nodded and Naruto said, I don't understand, Granny. Tsunade looked at him and said, tomorrow I want you to come with me and Gaara to the council chambers, and don't say a word unless I tell you specifically to. If things go bad, me and Gaara will make you a member of Suna. If that happens and it is done, I want you to ask me about if political marriages still go with a person if they leave a village. After I say yes, I want you to think of a way to piss Hayashi and Inoichi off, as not only clan heads but fathers. The council will try and get answers from you, but I will act as your power of attorney before that, and if things don't work, then you will take your daughter and leave the village to live in Suna or go from there, but make sure you piss them off. I will do all I cannot to have you marked as a missing mean, but I don't know how much me and Jiraiya can do. Kakashi looked around and said, where's Jiraiya at anyways? Naruto said, playing poker with Kyuubi and Gambunta. Making everyone look at him like he was crazy. Tsunade finally got over her look and said, explain. Naruto sighed and walked to the corner of the room and turned back around with his eyes in the final level of the Sharingan, and everyone in the room saw black for a moment, until they all found themselves in a long hallway. Naruto appeared in front of them and said, follow me. As he started to walk down the hallway, only for Kakashi to ask, where are we going? Naruto sighed and said, if you're going to explain everything, I might as well let Ero-sanin know about my bloodlines and also see what the hell they are doing in here anyways. The way it sounds is like, well, you will just have to see. And turned back, walking away from the group, and he yelled over his shoulder, follow me or you will get lost in here, forever. As he continued walking and everyone got in line behind him, Ino asked, where are we anyways, Naruto? Naruto smiled and said, my mind. ignoring the shocked looks of everyone there. Sakura said, I thought Jiraiya did not know about your Sharingan. How is he in here then? Naruto smiled and said, I told him I had a jutsu that would let him get drunk and play poker all day, but I refused to show him the jutsu. Just do it so he never learned the truth because his back was always turned. As they approached a strange sound, Bud came a deep voice. Wise came the voice of a drunk Jiraiya. Ear ribbit came a voice between a stutter and a croak. As everyone entered a room that looked like a bar with a big screen TV and a bar in the corner with a frog man that was dressed in a pair of boxers and a t-shirt that said, Felling Froggy. Next to him was Jiraiya, who had a sake in one hand and some cards in the other. A third person who had a weird-looking cigar in his mouth smoking and dressed in a shirt, and a pair of blue jeans with holes in them, and a pair of red sunglasses on the tip of his nose and red hair. Naruto yelled, Yo, bastard fox. I told you not to get Stone Aegean after I heard why you attacked Konoha in the first place. The guy in the tie-dye shirt turned to Naruto and said, Kit, I got the munchies, got any Cheetos? He then looked at the rest of the group and said, Let's see who we have here. Beetlejuice looking at Shino. You look better when you were laughing your ass off. Got any more of that laughing powder? Let's see. Damn Kit, I have not seen her since she showed her body to you at the waterfall that one time. I still say she wanted you. Why, Ohina? How's you doing? Looking at Hinata, everyone turned to a sight of a very red Hinata, and Kiba asked how come she's not fainting, and what waterfall. Sakura asked what did he mean by showing her body to you, Naruto, and who is he and the other guy. Naruto said the guy with frogs on him is Gambunta in his hinged human form, and the bastard with the W is Kyubi in his hinged human form. Bastard fox, don't harass my guest or I will make you wear a dog suit while dancing to Who Let the Dogs Out, because in my mind I'm boss. Kyubi said, Really, you are not my boss, and to prove it please look at the Kit's memories. You might find some interesting shit. Damn munchies. As he got up and walked to the bar and got some Cheetos. Everyone turned to look at the TV, and Naruto tried to stand in front of it until it grew to the size of Kyubi in his fox form, and showed Hinata dancing on the water naked, making everyone wide-eyed, and Naruto said it's not like it looks in Fox. I agreed to let you have access to my memories to shut you up, not make my life hell. Ino said, I'm glad I don't have any embarrassing moments with the baka here. Jiraiya had drool out of his mouth as he watched the screen, and Kyubi said, Really, let's look, shall we? And it showed Ino kissing Naruto before the boat they were on shifted, causing her to push him down and land on top of him after the mission where him and her had to help set up a wedding with a woman who once looked like Ino, making everyone look at her with a look of busted. Sakura seemed appalled and said, I would never kiss this idiot, and I can't believe you did, Ino, and what's worse is it looked like Hinata was actually doing that dance for Naruto. Kyubi said you would not kiss him even if he was in a henge or if it was a bet. Sakura said I would notice, and I have never bet on something like that. Kyubi grinned, and everyone saw Sakura getting ready to kiss Naruto when he was henged into Sasuke. Then it changed to a drunk Sakura trying to grope Naruto after her sweet 16th birthday party, which somebody spiked the drinks, making Sakura very embarrassed and pissed. Tenten said, You really knew her, Sakura, you were the most forward of all. Kyubi said, Let's not forget you, miss, I want to be like Tsunade. Let me show you my thanks. And the screen changed to Tenten listening to the story of how Naruto saved Tsunade from Orochimaru and Kabuto at the ramen stand, and Tenten getting up and kissing him as thanks, but everyone heard Naruto thoughts of long tongue, making everyone look at her with humor. Choji said, If you really are the Kyubi, why did you attack Konoha if you don't mind me asking? Naruto yelled, No, don't ask that, making everyone jump back, afraid he might go fox on them and kill them, but it was too late. The room changed into a nightclub, and a crowd of people and tables appeared, and the lights dimmed except for a spotlight that appeared on a stool on a stage, and Kyubi walked up to it, and everyone started to snap their fingers slowly every 15 seconds, and he said, You want to know why I attack? It was so whack that day. I started with rolling Miyazaki and got some munchie. The munchies went away after I got some Cheetos, but the man came and took my Cheetos. I wanted to cry until I found my best friend, Mary Jane. Mary Jane helped me forget about my Cheetos until I realized I did not have a light, so I came to the place that had the light. Konoha. Thank you all. And he light his cig and walked back to the table to play cards, and Jiraiya asked why you here, Tsunade. I thought Naruto only used that jutsu on me to get me to quit doing research. Kyubi looked at Gambunta and said, I feel froggy. Want to hop out of here and find some bitches. Gambunta took the cig from Kyubi and hit it, and said, Nah man, I just want to chill. Naruto sighed and made everyone but Jiraiya, Gambunta and Kyubi go back to the real world, and Tsunade looked at him and said, How long has that gone on, Naruto, and was he joking about the attack? Naruto sat down and said nope. He needed a light to get Stone Aegean, and could not make one strong enough for his pastime. Shikamaru said, How strong of one did he need, Naruto? Naruto sighed and said, I honestly don't know, but he has been hitting pieces of it ever since he was sealed in me with it, so I'm 16 years old, and do the math yourselves. As for how long Ero-sanen's been doing that, the 4th Friday of every month since I became his apprentice. It was either that or let him try and grope me in my sexy no-jutsu body. Making everyone face fault. Tsunade cracked her knuckles and said, Bring him out here please. Naruto closed his eyes, and when he opened them his Sharingan was active and a black portal opened in the room, and Jiraiya fell on the floor hard before the portal closed, and Tsunade started to beat the shit out of him, while everyone laughed. The laughter woke up Yuna, who started to cry, and Ayam said, Naruto, let me see her while you get her bottle. Naruto nodded and handed Yuna to Ayam, and then Naruto started to perform hand signs and summoned Gamatachi, who had a nurse's outfit on and a diaper bag over his shoulder as well as a bottle, making everyone face fault, and he said, bro, we really need to find you a wife someday so I can get out of this job. I still don't know what my father was thinking when he made me do this, but he said something about munchies and saying ear. Please bro. As he handed the bottle and bag and went up in a puff of smoke. After he was gone, everyone bawled on the floor laughing their asses off, and Sakura asked, how the hell did you get us summoned to agree to that, Naruto? Naruto looked at Jiraiya, who was confused, and said, I told Gambunta about the same deal I did for Erosanin and got him to agree to go there to keep them under control in my head and have them stop being used for his research. All the women had twitches at that, and Niji said, Naruto, how have you hid her this long anyways? Naruto looked at him and said, the same way you and Lee hide. Live a double life except mine is with Kagebunshin, making everyone in the room look at him questionably. Tenten asked, what do you mean, Naruto? Naruto said, simple, Niji and Lee are a couple and have been since they first became Genins, haven't you both? Niji crossed his arms and said, I don't know what you're talking about. Naruto said, and who has the bigger? Niji became red-faced at that, and Tenten covered her mouth to keep from saying anything because Niji never becomes embarrassed, while Ino did not have that problem, said, you're both gay. Lee looked at Naruto and sighed before saying yes. And Niji punches him in the arm. Tenten said, so that's why none of my advances worked against you. Sakura said, what was that whole deal of protecting me with your life stuff during our Chunin exams and asking me out all the time? Lee looked down, and Naruto said Lee was trying to make Niji jealous, so he was hitting on Sasuke, and he thought showing Sasuke how strong and determined he was would get his attention. Tenten asked, how did you find out the truth, Naruto? Naruto looked at Niji and said sarcastically, lover brother grabbed my ass during our match, and he wanted to do the same thing to Lee that he was doing with Sasuke, except he did it during our match where only someone like Lee, Sasuke and Kakashi would see it since it was so quick. That's why I went all Kyuubi on him. Niji did a Hinata imitation and put his fingers together, and Ino said, so whose is bigger? And Niji turned completely red and Hinata blushed before muttering Naruto-kun, but it was loud enough to get everyone's attention. Sakura looked at her wide-eyed and said, Hinata, how did you know? This time it was Kurenai who said, why do you think she always fainted when she tried to talk to him? It's the same reason she had a crush on him in the academy. She checked all the guys out with her bloodline when puberty hit her. And all the other girls looked at Hinata in a new light. Kiba said, why is Guy not going on about youth with what Lee and Niji just said? Naruto said, simple, he's too busy dreaming of Kakashi. Making everyone in the room look at him, and Kakashi said, I don't know what you're talking about. Naruto said, Kakashi, I was with Rin and she was once your greatest fangirl. She told me all kinds of stories about you and Guy in the past. Besides, I know about your interest in other guys, and everyone's eyes got wide and Kakashi dropped his book and said, how? Naruto said, remember the precious. Pointing toward the book he just dropped, and Naruto said, you, Guy, Niji, Lee, Orochimaru and Sasuke were the only men in this village never to be affected by my harem jutsu. I knew all of them were gay, so that made me look at you, and after hearing from Rin about your past it was easy to figure out. Jiraiya said, no, my research wasted on him. As fake tears ran down his cheeks. Naruto snorted and said, no, they are not just gay but bi because Kakashi slept with Tazuna's daughter Tsunami, but I don't know how much of that was real anyways. Ino asked, how do you notice things like that, but failed to notice Hinata? Naruto said, I did not fail to notice Hinata. I went to Hayash and asked for permission to date her when we were still in the academy, since I knew she could not without her father's permission, and I met the 129 palm strikes of the Hyugas. It took Kyuubi a week to fix the last one, as he rubbed his groin remembering getting hit there, and everyone could guess where the other point was then. Tsunade, who was sitting back in her chair, said, so does everyone understand what they have to do? Shikamaru said, nope. We know what the girls will be doing but the rest of us don't. Tsunade said, tomorrow at 8 a.m. I want you all back here and watch what happens in the council chambers while Naruto in his disguise that he had tonight comes with me and Gaara. Naruto sighed looking at Yuna, who was asleep in Ayam's arms, and nods and gets up and reaches for Yuna, but Ayam said, I got her, and you're walking me home. I want to talk to you about something. Making everyone look at her as she got up and heads for the door with Naruto following behind her. Tsunade raised an eyebrow and asked, was anyone else not expecting that? Everyone nodded, looking at the door closing. Tsunade pulls out her Kage crystal ball and activates it, showing everyone Naruto and Ayam. With Naruto and Ayam, Naruto quickly walked and caught up with Ayam and said thank you. Ayam kept walking and said, for what? Naruto said, for saying you see her as your daughter and also being there for me. With a small smile on his face, Ayam smiled as she looked at the baby and said, I meant every word of it. Look, Naruto, I know you might get upset with me saying this, but I want you to know I really do think of Yuna as my daughter. I also see you as someone I want to spend my life with because I have been in love with you ever since we were kids, and you first called me Aimekan when you were like 6 years old and I was almost 9. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I saw how confused you got trying to understand kindness and love, so I decided to wait until you knew what both were before I told you. Naruto looked at her as they walked and said, I don't. She sighed, know what to say. I already knew that, and that's why I wanted to tell you before what happens tomorrow. Either way, you stay in Konoha or leave. I want to go with you and help you give Yuna what she needs and what you always wanted. A family. As she walked up the steps to her home and Naruto was starting to reach for his daughter, not knowing what to say, and I opened the door and said, "You coming?" I got more to say. Naruto looked at her questioningly and walked in, and she closed the door and locked it before walking over to the playpen and laid Yuna in it, and smiled at her dad, who was drinking a cup of coffee, and looked at Naruto and her, as she grabbed Naruto's arm and dragged him out of the room, and he took one last look at his daughter, and father, smiled and mouthed, "I got her," as they left the room. Tenten said, "I think everyone was right when they called him Q, but instead of by it should have been inch." Hinata turned and said, "What happened to them?" Looking at all the men passed out on the floor all in a pile, Gaara said, "I made them hit each other when they tried to look. Naruto told me to beat perverts, and most men are perverts but not women," making all the women look at him, and Tsunade asked Gaara, "Why did you not pass out or get a nosebleed from what you saw?" Gaara said, "Simple, Shikaku, a woman." And all the women in the room were wide-eyed, and Temari said, "Then why does she get upset on full moons?" Gaara said, "They always fall when she has her monthlies." Like it was no big deal, and all the women had twitches as they looked at him. Gaara said, "I will see you all tomorrow," and left in a swirl of sand. Tsunade sighed and said, "Get some rest and meet here before the meeting." Dismissed. And everyone started to leave. Jiraiya stood up and said, "What's going on, Haim?" Tsunade said, "Did you know that he was Erasher's son, and has not only his father's bloodline but his mother's?" Jiraiya sighed and said, "So you found out about Rin and Yuna, huh?" As he sat down in a chair, Tsunade looked at him and said, "You knew?" Jiraiya nodded and said, "Yes, the third, when he set up the meeting for me to meet Naruto, informed me, but I was not allowed to tell him until he was 18. I first saw Rin when they first met, and when he went to sleep that night I found a note she wrote to tell him they would meet Aegean. I had a Kagebunshin following his and her the whole time, ready to interfere should trouble hit, and I watched them fall in love. Since the kid had such a hard time in life, I cut him some slack and let him find happiness." Tsunade said, "Why did you never tell me?" Jiraiya sighed and said, "If you would have found out the truth, you would have killed everyone on the council, especially since Erasher was like your son, you never had." Tsunade sighed and asked, "It's going to be held tomorrow, and does he really know Hiraishin?" Jiraiya pulled out a bottle of sake and said yes, he mastered it in a little over a month and also learned from the scroll on Rasengan how to solve his problem with needing a clone. As he poured 2 glasses, and that's how the rest of the night went. The next day Naruto walked in with Ayam, who had a huge smile on her face and looked tired as hell, and everyone in the room was looking at them with raised eyebrows, and Tsunade asked, "Are you ready, Naruto?" Naruto only nodded as he left with Tsunade. After they were gone, Ino, being the gossip head, walked to Ayam and asked, "Well, how was it?" Ayam looked at her and asked, "How was what?" Tenten asked Naruto, "We know you and him did it last night." Ayam blushed and said it was heaven and hell. Heaven for 8 hours and hell when I tried to walk this morning, as she had a dreamlike state on her face, ignoring the shocked look on everyone in the room. Hannah, who had heard them and was told the truth, asked, 8 hours, are you kidding? Ayam said, "That's when I told him to stop." 2 words for you. Stamina freak. As she walked slowly to a chair and sat down, and the other girls all looked at each other. When Naruto, who had his cloak disguised on, he had the previous night so only his eyes could be seen, and Tsunade walked into the council chamber, Hayash asked, "Forgive me, Hokage-sama, but why have you called this meeting, and who is this person beside you, and why is this person here?" Tsunade took her seat and said, "I called you to inform you about a secret the third Hokage had hid from the rest of the village for security reasons and also the protection of this person who I would like to introduce to you now. Allow me to introduce the last of the Kazama clan and also the last Uchiha, with the exception of his daughter, who I am sure some of you heard about being at the stadium yesterday." Most of the people in the room were shocked, and Inoichi said, "How can you say this, Tsunade? The last Kazama was Erasher, and he died stopping the Kyuubi, and how is he an Uchiha also?" Tsunade said, "Please show everyone your Sharingan." And Naruto closed his eyes and then opened them and showed everyone in the room a 3 Sharingan that soon changed into the final stage and shocked everyone in the room. Tsunade said, "Now the Diamond Eye." Naruto nodded and changed his eyes Aegean, and everyone had their jaws on the floor, and Danzo asked, "Who is this person, and why was we not notified earlier than this?" Tsunade looked at the shocked people and said his father was Erasher Kazama the Yondaime, and his mother was Uchiha Finata, sister to the former clan head of the Uchiha. The third had him first hide who he was and his bloodline so that his father's enemies would not start another war to kill him off. He was later told to hide his Sharingan as well so Itachi would not come back and kill him and possibly Sasuke. Now that they are both dead, and also the fact he is able to protect himself from his father's enemies by knowing both of his father's signature jutsu as well as other skills, letting everyone know he could kill them all if he wanted to with the Hiraishin. Hayash said, "I am glad to hear he is alive because that means my daughter Hinata is betrothed to him by his father." Tsunade said, "I am aware of that and also about Ino as well as Temari from the Sand Village. I have been asked to speak as his power of attorney while we discuss this matter as well as a few others concerning his clans, so that way according to the laws of Konoha, if he does not like what is decided as to what we agreed privately with, he will leave Konoha forever and no one can stop him as clan heads of all 3 clans." Getting shouts of outrage from everyone in the room. The Nara head asked, "What do you mean by 3 clans, Tsunade?" making everyone quit down and look at her missing that a few moments ago. Tsunade smiled and said simple, he is the only Uchiha and also the only Kazama, but what is not known to any before now except the Hokage and this person here is that when Erasure and his wife married, since both had bloodlines, the chance of a new one being created was accounted for, and because he has the ability to use both like his daughter, he is also the clan head of the third clan's name, that is still a secret to all but myself and him for his protection. Because of his unique situation I have asked him to create, or restore all three clans since we can seal off one or the other bloodlines in his children, and he has agreed, but he wants a few things first. Danzo asked what is it he wants. Tsunade said he wants as the only Uchiha and Kazama left to get all belongings of both clans and to destroy the old homes of both clans and create new ones with the money, so this village does not have to be reminded of the massacre, and the chance that his father's enemies may have been in his family home and learn secrets to get around security. Over time, the third's teammate said that is agreeable and a wise precaution. What else does he want? Tsunade said he wants all rights of the clan restoration law, meaning he and his family has to be protected by all clans of Konoha, and also they can't be favored because of his status like Sasuke was with the village, showing favoritism or hurt by anyone who has a problem with what his family has done, since some may hate the Uchiha or his father for what he did to defeat Kyuubi or other petty qualms. Everyone looked around and the advisors said that is also acceptable. Tsunade nodded and said this person also wants a council seat for all three clans, and he wants all rights a clanhead has, and if any of his requests are not met he has the right to take his family and leave because, to put it frankly, he is pissed at Konoha. Sakura mother asked why is he pissed at Konoha. Tsunade said for ignoring his father's last request, making everyone in the room flinch. The advisors said we realized that our not listening to the Yandame's request was foolhardy, but no one was hurt by it. Naruto became pissed at that and started to walk toward the door, and everyone looked at him and Danzo asked where are you going? Naruto reached for his headcloth and said as he revealed who he was, I'm leaving Konoha and taking my family's bloodlines with me. To say no one was hurt by it is like saying Kyuubi never attacked. It's a crock of shit. And walked out of the room leaving a bunch of pissed and shocked members of the council. Tsunade said you assholes don't know what you just did. Not only did you just cost us both bloodlines but also alliances with Snow Country, Sea Country, Wave Country, Vegetable Country, Land of Birds, the Fuma clan, the Kurama clan and possible Suna and about 10 other countries or clans. Shocking everyone. One of the advisors asked what do you mean Hokage-sama? Tsunade said all of them wanted to have a member of one of their countries or clan members to marry him and give wherever he lives at trade rights as well as other alliances. They don't care about Konoha, they care about him. Half of them are royalty for God's sake, and add to the fact he can seal off his and his daughter's bloodlines with his Kazama bloodline. We may finally lose both bloodlines forever, and when I said he knows both his father's techniques I meant it. He not only knows Rasengan but also the Hiraishin Jutsu, and who knows how many Jutsu he has copied with his Sharingan. I'm going to try and talk him out of leaving, and you had better figure out what to do. As she left the room. After she left, the advisor said what should we do? Hayashi said we have no choice but to try and calm him down and get him to stay. A civilian said we should kill him before he gets away. Inoichi said do you honestly think you can kill him? He took out the leader of Atasuki by himself, and none of us could even touch him. Add to the fact he knows his father's signature jutsu, he could kill everyone in the village and never even think twice of it. Danzo looked around and said we should take his daughter, and his voice disappeared as a black portal opened up and consumed him, shocking everyone in the room not knowing what happened. A swirl of flames appeared and Naruto was standing in front of the room and said I am sure you are all wondering what just happened to Danzo, huh? I will tell you. It is the same thing that will happen to anyone who so much as tries and hurts any member of my family. Tsunade just gave me a reason to stay in Konoha, and it is the only reason I want leave. The civilian that said they needed to kill Naruto asked what did you do to Danzo? Naruto looked at him while activating his Sharingan and said I sent him to the seal where he is currently being eaten by Kyuubi. The advisors looked scared for a moment and asked what did Tsunade give you that you are willing to stay in Konoha? Naruto reached into his pocket and pulled out a scroll and laid it on the floor and said this is the blood oath of Konoha. For those of you who don't know what it is a sealing jutsu that was used to ensure trust between each of the founding clans and citizens of Konoha. Every clan head's blood as well as those of the council are added to the seal every year to ensure that what this village has done to me never happens. If I activate the seal in this scroll it kills every clan head and also the entire council. Naruto opened the scroll and bit his thumb and let some drops of blood hit the seal and looked at the council and said including me. Now you have a choice. Either we come to an agreement that is beneficial to not only me but Konoha, or I kill us all and have my daughter go with the Kazakage to live in Suna. Everyone saw the determination in Naruto's eyes and Hayashi said just like your father. All or nothing attitude getting everyone's attention. Hayashi then said we really are fools? Not only have we been abusive of the son of our savior but also the head of two of the most powerful clans in Konoha, and also the person who saved us from the Kazakage in his demon form. Hayashi then pulled out a blank scroll and wrote something on it before pulling out his insignia as clan head and cut his finger before putting it on the document, and walked over to Naruto and handed it to him, and said this is the backing of the Hyuga clan stating your clans fall under our protection even if the rest of Konoha ignores the laws of clan restoration. If anyone tries to hurt you or your daughter and any other children you have, we will have no choice but to kill those responsible. Shocking everyone in the room, Naruto reached into his pocket and pulled out a scroll and said, I promised to Niji I would change the Hyuga family. Inside this scroll is the answer to how to protect your bloodline while uniting it. It's a seal that I have placed on myself and my daughter for our protection so no one can steal our bloodlines. You won't be able to hurt the branch family anymore, but with this you don't need a branch family. It has to be done by someone of your family blood within 2 generations of the person putting it on, so it means a brother, sister, mother, father, aunt, or cousin and grandparents to do it or undo it, so you can't unseal mine and I can't unseal yours. Once someone has it on, they can't unseal themselves. Only someone without the seal on them can unseal it, so if you put it on everyone in your clan then do it after birth, then no one can ever take your family's bloodline. Handing it to Hayash as he took the scroll, Hayash wrote. Hayash looked at the scroll and nodded and said, I will put it on Hinata first before she marries you. Naruto looked at him and said, I ask that you allow Hinata her own choice in that, Hayash. I do care for her, but I don't want her to feel she is being forced into this. That way the rest of her life will be like my daughter's mother before she died. Hayash nodded and returned to his seat. The advisors looked around the room, realizing they had no choice in the matter anymore, asked, what are your demands, Naruto? Naruto smiled and said, simple. I want the life I have been denied by this village for me and my family. All I want is to be able to walk down the street and not have people calling me demon, destroying my home, attacking me, throwing me out of their stores, charging me 3 times the normal price for food or other items in the trash. I don't ask for respect or anything outrageous like that. I just want the same thing any other parent wants in life. To live in a town without hate and having to worry if someone is going to kill my child or hurt them just because his or her parents saved the village and nobody can see the difference between a boy and a 200-foot demon that kills without caring. Is that so much to ask? You know that you're lucky all the demons are sealed safely, because with the way this village has shown not only their own children but people from other villages what they do when a father saves his village by using his child, no other parent would do it, and would let this village burn to the ground. Making almost everyone in the room feel guilty, the advisors looked around the room and said, we agree with your terms as well as give the full backing of the clan restoration law as long as you agree to the terms of producing 15 heirs for each clan. Naruto nodded and said, I just want the right to choose who I am with, though. I don't want someone to do it because of my family name or status, and I don't want someone who sees me as a demon also. That way I can hopefully get all 3 clans set up to eliminate the problems that was in the old Uchiha clan and make all 3 as respected as the other clans. The advisors nodded and said agreed. Tsunade, who was hiding in the back of the room coming in through a secret door, said good. Now that those problems are settled, I will be sending Naruto to each of the countries or clans I mentioned earlier, and make sure they understand about having multiple wives, and also contact the builder. Naruto said he wants to build the new Uchiha, Uzumaki, and Kazama compounds and have him start while Naruto is getting his future brides. I have already decided the Rookie 9 and Guy's team along with their senseis will be going with him along with Anko, Shizen and Hana as bodyguards, and maybe he might ask some of them to help restore his clan. He has already found one from what I understand that is willing. Now is there any objections or problems anyone sees with this? Naruto looked at her with a look that said, how do you know? Everyone looked at each other and shook their heads no. Tsunade said, then I call this meeting adjourned and wish to welcome Naruto Uchiha Kazama Uzumaki to the council, and walked over before grabbing him and disappearing in a swirl of flames. When they got to the Hokage tower, she let go of him and asked, how did you do the flame Shushin? Naruto looked at her and the rest of the room that he had left shocked and said, I channel Kyuubi's chakra into the leaf Shushin and it sets it on fire, and since it's my chakra I am immune to it. Tsunade nodded and said, well, you all saw and heard what was said. Do any of you have a problem with the mission that I explained before and now? Ino said, how come only Hinata was freed but not me? Naruto said, simple. From what Tsunade said, your father almost never agrees with anything that he has to follow Hayash on. If I would have tried to get you released from it, then he would have flat out refused. Now he might change his mind about it, and then I can make the same request. For now you're stuck with it. Anko looked at Naruto and said, so you're Yandame's Gaki. This should be fun. Naruto looked at her and started to laugh a little, getting everyone's attention. Hana asked, what are you laughing at? Naruto said, Rin told me about when she was a genin. Anko used to go around the village in pink dresses that went all the way to her ankles and was quiet and shy. I just had an image of her younger self appear when I looked at her. Anko looked ready to kill and Hana asked, what was this Rin's last name? Naruto said truthfully, I don't know. I asked her several times, but she said she left it behind when she left Konoha. Sorry. Hana nodded and Tsunade said, okay. I want you all to leave at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Naruto, here are all the contracts and their proposals and you are in charge of where to go, but I want Kakashi to be in charge of the group. Naruto nodded and said, bring whatever you need for all climates because we will be going between beaches to snow and everything in between. First stop will be Wave Country. Sakura said, got to show off your bridge, huh? Making everyone look at her and Naruto. Naruto said, no. Tazuna's the best contractor I know, and he won't do something that is dangerous for me even if someone threatens to kill him since I saved him and his family. Aegean after I went back to Wave. We will just be meeting Haku. Aegean also. Hopefully she forgot about Ero-san and Little Fun last time, and grabbed his daughter before leaving a confused group. Chapter 2. When Naruto arrived with his daughter the next morning at the gate, he was surprised that everyone was not there. He looked and noticed something very strange. All male members of the escort group were gone. Naruto turned and asked Tsunade, who was walking up, where is the rest of the group? Tsunade sighed and said, to put it bluntly, I can't give you such a large group as expected. I had to move Kiba onto Hana team to replace her. Shikamaru has got duty for the exams coming up soon and he won't be able to leave without being replaced, and is also taking over Tenten's spot on Team Guy. Choji is taking over for you on Team 7 and Shino is as well to replace Sakura, and Sai is staying with Kakashi. I could give you Jiraiya, but I thought you might be agents that. Ayam has said she needed to work with her father till you returned, and also Tamari returned to Suna with Gaara to get her things ready. Naruto sighed and looked down at his daughter and asked, so how long is this mission for anyways, because I know a few of these ladies won't be able to drop everything without a little time. Tsunade smiled and said, you got 1 year to make the trip? Ladies, keep him safe. All the women just nodded, and then Kurenai's baby started to cry and it woke up Yuna. Yuna started to cry and Kurenai sighed and said, sorry everyone. Little Asuma has been teething and he gets rowdy from it. Naruto smiled and walked over and said, let me see him a moment. Everyone looked at him and Kurenai handed the 13-month-old, and Naruto put his finger in the baby's mouth and closed his eyes, and a few moments later the baby stopped crying and everyone looked questioningly, and Kurenai asked, what did you do? Naruto smiled as Yuna quit crying moments later and said he won't be complaining for a couple of days because I healed all the tenderness and numbed the pain, and walked over and got the bag, his little bag he had, and looked, and everyone was looking, and Tsunade asked, how did you do that when you can't do medic jutsu? Naruto smirked and pulled out a kuniya and cut his finger, and it healed back, and said, remember what I am. I learned when I saved Haku I can use his chakra to heal others also, but it drains me a lot, so I don't do it for a reason. Crying babies is a good reason. Everyone nodded with the answer, and Naruto asked, is everyone ready, because it will take us almost a week to get to Wave. Everyone looked at him and Sakura said, it is only 3 days to your bridge, so what's going to take the other couple of days? Naruto ignored her and started to walk away from the group, and Tsunade looked at Shizen and Sakura and said to them, keep an eye on him. Something's wrong, and I don't mean just the wedding and clan stuff. Both ladies nodded and turned, and everyone started to walk in silence. Soon the ladies started to chat about anything and everything from parenting with Kurenai to training to recent missions and dating, but Naruto stayed off to his own, glancing back every once in a while and making sure everyone was okay. It was about 4:30 in the afternoon, and Naruto stopped and turned to the right and started walking off the road, and everyone looked at him trying to figure out what was going on. Naruto smiled as he looked at his daughter, who was smiling, looking around, and Ino yelled, Naruto, where are you going? Naruto kept walking and everyone had no choice but to follow. After walking for about 30 minutes, Naruto stopped and said, go ahead and set up camp here. I will be back shortly, and walked off from the group. Enko sighed and said, you've heard His Majesty, ladies. Let's set up camp and then see what His Highness wants us to do. With contempt in her voice, everyone sighed and started to set up camp. 3 tents were made and a few sleeping bags, and a fire was started. Suddenly everyone tensed when they felt an explosion of power come from the direction Naruto went, and everyone dropped what they were doing and took off in that direction. They soon came across a clearing and saw a woman sitting in a 10-foot circle and saw her holding baby Yuna. They looked around and saw Naruto on the ground, and he was passed out, but his arms showed what looked like they had been bleeding. The woman looked at them and said, hello. Shizen asked, who are you and what happened to him? The woman looked at Naruto and smiled and said, he just passed out from loss of blood and exhaustion. That just does a number on him, but I thank him every time he comes by and brings her. Looking down at the girl in his arms, Sakura, being the smartest of the group, asked, are you her mother? The woman smiled sadly and said, I was. He laid me to rest in this field when I passed away, but whenever he passes by he tries to bring Yuna with him so that she can see me and have some memories of me. I think it's his way of dealing with the guilt of not being able to cure me though. Everyone was wide-eyed, and Enko asked, if he laid you to rest, then how are you alive right now? The woman looked at the Sosi on the ground and said, the jutsu allows me 1 hour of life in return for 1 day of his life. Naruto was able to figure a way to do it where it took away from Kyuubi's life instead, because he would live longer, but it still takes a toll on him. However, I can't leave this circle or the jutsu cancels. I guess he does not like to lose what he holds close to his heart. With sad smile, Yuna giggled, and the woman said, so tell me why you are all with him if you don't mind me asking. By the way, my name is Rin. Everyone looked around and Sakura said, Naruto has to restore all 3 clans of his family, so. Rin interrupted her and said, so either you are all going to be his wives or you are a group to escort them back. Someone found out about his bloodlines, huh? Do you know who his family was also? Everyone nodded, and Rin smiled and then frowned and said, looks like my time is almost up. Would one of you mind coming and getting Yuna since he has not awoken yet? Tell him this for me. Let the past die or he will become Kakashi. I am not saying that I don't like seeing him and our daughter, but I do not want to see him torturing himself over it. If any of you do marry him, get that through his thick skull. Everyone chuckled, and Hinata walked over and took the baby. Rin kissed her one last time and then smiled and said, I love you both. And then she seemed to start to fade away right before their eyes. About 5 minutes later, Naruto woke up and looked around and saw that the circle had been used, meaning she had done came and gone, and he smiled a sad smile and said, please don't tell anyone about what you might have seen or heard. I don't want to answer any questions about it. After he got up he went over to Hinata and got his daughter back and started walking back to camp, leaving a very confused group of ladies, each in their own thoughts. Naruto was just walking into camp when he tensed and said, "You know that you could never hide from me, you know that, Kiro." The ladies behind him looked questionably at him. A habit that seemed to be on the rise lately, and laughter was heard and a gruffy voice said, "Perhaps, but not many would come to this place, so tell me, what is it that you brought all these intruders here for?" Naruto looked at a tree and said, "These are not intruders but dear friends. As for what they are here for, they are with me on a journey and I was paying my respects. So tell me, what has you in this part of the woods?" The voice said, "I go where the winds blow me, and today they blew me here. I must admit it is good to talk to an old friend, but I was wondering if there is any truth to the rumors I have been hearing about you, Kazama. Do you really intend to start 3 harems for the petty council in that abomination you call a village?" Naruto sighed and said, "I have no choice in the matter." The voice said, "You could always leave the village and never return. It's not like you don't have a place to go. You know you and your family always have a place with my kind." The girls were all looking around trying to find where the voice was coming from. It was coming from every direction and none at all, and even with the Hinata bloodline she could not find the source. Naruto said, "I know, my old friend, and you and your people have protected me when mine tried to kill me, and for that I am forever thankful and trust you fully. However, I still have my duties for now, and those are to my daughter, making sure she has what's best. However, if things don't work I will take you up on that offer." The voice said, "Always thinking of others. Very well, Lord of." Naruto cut him off and said, "Don't call me by that title. I did not earn it, and I feel like a thief to use it until I prove I am worthy of it." The voice laughed and said, "Very well, but remember what I told you and know that my kind are watching for you should you need the help. I will return the woods to what they were after you leave, and then be on my way." And the wind blew and Naruto sighed. Kurenai asked who was that Naruto, and where was he? Naruto looked at them and said, "I am not allowed to tell you more than the name I called him unless he or his people say I can, or you become a member of my family. It is part of the agreement I made with them when I was 5, and I will honor it until the day I die." Everyone looked around and dropped it. 464. Chapter 3. Naruto looked around the campfire at camp and noticed everyone was looking at him with glances, and he sighed and asked, "So what is on everyone's mind?" Ino asked, "I think the question most of us want to know is why do these women all want to be with you? I mean, you were always an idiot and annoying, so what do they see in you that we don't?" A cold breeze blew through the trees and a female voice said, "He has the gift." Naruto smiled and said, "I should have known. Where Kiro goes, Elena would soon follow." The voice said in a soft, gentle voice, "Yes, you should know that by now, Naruto-kun, especially after knowing of us for so long." All the females were looking around intent and asked, "That's it. Who are these people and why is it none of us can find them?" The voice asked, "Are they trustworthy, Naruto-kun?" Naruto said, "I trust them all with my life, but you will have to decide to reveal yourself." The wind seemed to pick up and blow even harder in the middle of the camp, and the campfire seemed to turn blue and then back to normal, and a woman appeared in the camp dressed in a white gown and had pale skin and long white hair and blue eyes, and she smiled at all the shocked women there and said, "Hello, my name is Elena." Hana asked, "What are you, because you are not human? You have no scent to you," making everyone look at the woman now even more incredibly. Elena said, "I am the Gordian spirit of the wind. My brother Kiro is the Gordian of the forest. We are the elemental Gordians blessed by the Lord of Creation to balance the world." Shocking everyone except Naruto. Sakura asked Naruto, "How do you know them, and why did the other one call you Lord, and what did she mean you have the gift?" Naruto sighed and said, "Perhaps it would be best if Elena told you of it, so that way I don't say something I should not." Elena nodded and said, "As you are all aware of now from listening to my brother and Naruto talk, that you know he is a Kazama, correct?" All the girls nod, and Elena said, "The Kazama clan has a history that nearly no mortal ever knew. Around 600 years ago one of my sisters married into the Kazama clan after falling in love with a mortal. She gave up her immortality to do it, but since our titles are given down to those of our family being blessed by the Lord of Creation, she kept her title, and soon she had a child, and after she died that title passed on to her firstborn. This continued on until the time Naruto was 5 years old, but by that time none of the Kazama clan knew of the title, or the power behind it. When Naruto was 5 years old he accidentally unlocked the power that was dormant inside him, and it drew us to him. When we got there to him we nearly decided to destroy your village right then and there for what had happened to him. The only thing that stopped us was this boy caring for the one you called Hokage. After that we of the elementals watched over him and kept an eye on him. We step in from time to time, either creating plants to grow to hide him or to blow his scent away so those who could track it would go elsewhere and things of that nature. My brother the Guardian of the Rains caused the rain at the Valley of the End battle he had with the Uchiha because we were afraid the one-eyed man would have left Naruto to die, to chase after his prized students, so without a trail to follow he had no choice but to help Naruto-kun. Now Naruto, since awakening this power, has become the new elemental Guardian in not only title but actuality, and so his daughter Yuna will become his heir and new Guardian after his death. As for the gift I spoke of, he has the gift of second sight. It is not like your petty bloodlines. It allows him to see into the very soul and the emotions the soul is in and try and help them if it is something that truly burdens them. Each of the women that have fallen in love have had heavy burden of pain in their lives, and either by words or actions he helped them each overcome and face the pains that plagued them, and now they want to be with the one who changed them. Each of you here he has helped though you may never have known it, and his methods are often unusual. All the girls were floored by this and Tenten asked, what do you mean, Elena? I think most of us here can't think of anything he might have done by what you have described. Elena looked at Naruto and smiled, seeing as he went to sleep next to Yuna on a sleeping bag, said I can tell you each about something he has done, and why he did it because he has told us. As you saw earlier that we can be anywhere, and we only look like this when we choose to be. He has sat on his father's head and talked to me many times. Who should I start with? She looked around and said you Hinata would be an excellent one to start with. You probably already know what he did and most of you probably do also, but he showed her strength and gave her words to encourage her when she was doubting herself right to live and to be who she is. The Chunin exams was one such case. A few words and he gave her all the strength she needed. All the girls had to agree, remembering him telling Niji to shut up and supporting Hinata. Elena continued, and you Sakura, you were always depressed after the Uchiha turned you down, and Naruto would say something or act some way to either make you forget about the Uchiha or make you feel better about yourself. Making Sakura think of it in that way and started to see Naruto in a new light. Elena smiled, and Ino, you were an unusual one I have heard about. After Shikamaru started to spend time with Temari after the exams, and you wanted to cry and show revenge agents Temari, why don't you tell what happened since it was right before Naruto left on his training trip? You remember the marriage. Ino sighed and said we had the mission where I had to pretend to be this guy's fiancé so that way he would agree to it. The whole mission was a joke and we completed it, but on the way back I was feeling a little down because that woman could get a guy to love her for who she was but I couldn't, and he said something that I would remember for the rest of my life. Sakura looked at her friend and asked what did he say. Ino smiled and said to those who want a woman for her beauty only you will never find a happy man, but if a man falls for you not only because of your beauty but also for the person you are, then you will find a man who will make your life complete. Don't settle for a guy who can't tell what he has in front of you because of the way you look. Wait for the man who will make you complete, Ino. Then you won't have the feeling that you have to be something you're not. Making all the women there look at the sleeping Naruto with a new look of intrigue. Elena smiled and said, and you Tenten? Remember when you had lost to Temari what happened in the recovery room? Tenten said yeah. I doubted my skills because up to that point I never missed, and after she totally destroyed me I felt like I was a disgrace to my team. Naruto came in looking to check on Hinata because of her match with Niji, and when he found out about her being taken to the hospital he stopped, and, flashback, Naruto stood at the recovery room that had Devider sheets between them, and he looked at Tenten and said, are you okay? Tenten looked at him and said yes. In a hostile tone, Naruto smiled and said, you know you did really good out there. I think that the only reason you lost is because she used elemental jutsu against you. If it was not for that then you would have won. Sometimes you have to lose a match to realize what you need to win a war. Tenten looked at him and said, why would I need to listen to someone who won by a fart? With contempt in her voice, Naruto said, well I guess you're right, but I think that only means that I had an element of surprise that my opponent did not know about, like Temari did against you. A fart or using wind. It all is the same when you think about it. The next time Kiba fights me he will probably train himself to not get so close to my butt. When you fight her Aegean, train yourself to get around her wind. That's just my opinion. And left her to her thoughts. Flashback end. Tenten said it was because of that I learned that I started to use swords also because a long-range fighter sometimes stinks up close. Elena nodded and said, and Anko? You by far was one of the most comical ones I had ever seen in my life. Remember the day of the second exams when you were pissed off because of something before you arrived and then what he did that made you feel better? Anko started to laugh and said yeah. The Gaki started to do a little sissy dance to mock me and made me laugh inside at it, but I could not show it, and then acted like he was a badass, interrupting my speech and let me scare even more of the Genins by cutting him and licking his blood. I remember after that I felt better because before that happened some asshole called me snake whore and pissed me off. I forgot all about Orochimaru until the dead bodies was found. Everyone who was there laughed remembering that event. Elena said, let's see, Hana was also an unusual one. Even though she never knew why he did it, but he saved her dog from being put to sleep for attacking the Fire Lord's cat, and to her that was a great thing because of the love she has for her companion. Naruto saw how worried she was about it, and then said that it was not her dog that did it but him for all the damn D-rank missions of chasing that cat. Hana asked, how did you know about that? Elena said you confessed it to the wind afterwards, wondering why he did it. I heard you. Hana looked down embarrassed about it, and thought to thank Naruto privately later. Elena smiled and said, and let's not forget the lovely Kurenai. I bet you don't know how come Konohamaru has been so helpful to you. It's because Naruto saw how sad you were and how tired you were with the baby after Asuma's death, and he wanted to make it easier for you, so he has been paying Konohamaru to take time each day to help you and has been teaching him jutsu, being the only other wind affinity in the village. Kurenai was wide-eyed knowing how much help Konohamaru had been, and how hard it was even with his help, and looked at Naruto, and smiled and thought how lucky she was to still have someone looking out for her. Elena said, and last but not least Shizen. Why don't you tell everyone about your hero over there? I know it was something that you can't help but remember. Shizen smiled and said Naruto had been passed out from learning the final stage of the Rasengan, and should have been for at least 2 days but awoke after a night's sleep. Tsunade had knocked me out because she did not want me to interfere with her and her decision of Orochimaru. She had drugged Jiraiya that night also so he could not fight properly. We all three followed the destruction after Tsunade rejected Orochimaru's proposal to bring Tsunade's fiancé and her brother back to life. If it had not been for Naruto, she would have accepted it. During the fight that came, Swanda was immobilized because of her fear of blood she had, and I was fighting Kabuto. He would have killed me, but Naruto saved me from him, and a summoned snake as well, and then he went on and saved Tsunade by taking a blow from Kabuto. He then went and took a beating, and then when Tsunade was screaming for him to run and Kabuto telling him to run and live a life of a chicken, he figured out what he needed to do to complete the Rasengan and defeated Kabuto, but not before having one of his arteries to his heart cut. It was those actions that convinced Tsunade to get over her fear of blood and become the Hokage, and also those actions that made me feel truly happy someone was willing to save someone like me. Everyone knew about certain parts of the battle, but to hear it from someone who was actually there and not suspected of bragging floored them. Elena asked, and what did he do after that was over that changed your life? Everyone turned to Shizen, who was red-faced, and said, I won't tell that. I refuse. Everyone was wondering what he did, and Elena said it's not that embarrassing. Shizen sighed and said on the way back some bill collectors came to collect on Sinodecima gambling debts, and he helped me solve the problem through a whole bunch of trickery. He also came into the bathhouse in his sexy no jutsu form and broke Jiraiya's cloaking jutsu that he was using to peep on me and then used a Rasengan on him for it. I was the only woman in the bathhouse and he got me a towel to cover myself up with, and then he took me out to dinner as payment for accidentally seeing me in that state. It was really romantic also, and I never knew he could do that. Getting red-faced, Karina asked what did he do? Curious. Shizen smiled a little and blushed even more and said, do you know that anyone he sends Kyuubi's chakra into as healing makes them feel like you are releasing the same hormones you do when you orgasmed? I did not know either until I slipped on some ice. Someone dropped outside my hotel room and fell on my back cutting it up, and Naruto had come back from the manager's office with both of our room keys and he had to take me inside my room. I was in heaven the rest of the day after he healed me and waited on me hand and foot to make sure I was okay. All the women had looks of not interest but lust in them as they looked at Naruto. Then Sakura asked what did your brother mean by Naruto and his daughter could come live with you if he chose. Elena sighed and said my brother talks too much, but I guess I can tell you. Naruto as the current title holder can come live with the other elemental guardians if he chose and could ask the Lord of Creation to make him immortal along with his daughter, but he would never be allowed to return to the mortal life, and he would have to leave Konoha and its people to themselves unless it messed with his rule. Ino asked what exactly is he the lord of? Naruto, who had woke up a few moments ago, said with his eyes closed, gravity. Startling everyone, Sakura asked what do you mean Naruto? Naruto pulled out a kunai and held it in the air and let go of it, but instead of falling it started to float upwards, and he said this is the true secret of the Hiraishin my father created. It is a jutsu that does not travel at the speed of light between one point to another but releases gravity on the person whose blood is sealed into the kunai between those 2 points. It's why only my father and I was able to do it. My father did not realize exactly what it was it did, but after I got to looking at it I realized what he was actually doing. It's dangerous to mess with, and I only do it in small bursts at a time so not to mess with the balance of the world after what happened when I was 5. As he grabs the kunai and puts it back in his pouch. Ino asked what did you do when you were 5 Naruto? Elena said the mob that attacked him was a small mob of Abu 10 people and they had him cornered in an alley and were within about 15 feet of him. When he unlocked his power he raised the gravity in that 15 feet by 20 times crushing the entire mob killing them, but he was unaffected by it. We believe Kyuubi had something to do with it, but we could not tell for sure and really did not want to know because we felt they got what they deserved. It was only after we came and taught him about his powers that he learned to do it safely, but out of fear of it happening again he won't do it more than a foot around him, besides his father's jutsu. It is for that reason he feels he does not deserve the title he has because he does not think he is worthy of it, but by showing the restraint he does, we cannot fault him. Everyone was speechless and Elena asked so I heard about your little harem problem and I wanted to tell you that the elements want to wish you luck on this, and we respect your decision, but remember you are us and we are you great nephew. Well I must be going. You know how to get us if you need us. Emphasizing the word great, Naruto nods and said just whisper in the wind. Elena nods and then the wind picks up and blows up dust, and she was gone leaving an incredibly shocked group. Naruto sighed and said I guess there's no use to say it, but you can't tell anyone about this. If the wrong people found out they could turn my daughter or one of my descendants into a weapon or force the elements to take actions that could cause a lot of deaths because we can't fight a year-long blizzard of no rain for a year or things like that. I will tell you this, I can't do the whole planet, but I can control it in a given area, either making stuff heavier or lighter, but I don't like to do it, so please I beg of you keep quiet about it. All the women looked at each other and nodded. After that the rest of the night went by pretty quietly except for a couple of crying babies wanting changed or fed. When everyone got ready the mood was a little quieter as each woman had different thoughts in mind concerning Naruto. As they continued Naruto sighed and said I guess we will make it sooner than I thought Sakura. Everyone seemed to come out of their thoughts there and looked and saw a huge bridge appearing in the distance, and Sakura said the great Naruto bridge. It's been nearly 3 years since I seen this thing. I forgot how big it is. Naruto closed his eyes and suddenly his chakra flared and then a pulse of Kyuubi's chakra came from him, and he stopped just after that and Anko asked what was the idea Gaki, trying to act big and all. Naruto looked back and said no, making sure Haku don't kill everyone here thinking we are mercs on enemy ninja. An ice mirror appeared in the road ahead of them and a beautiful black-haired woman stepped out with a light blue dress and she said it's a good thing you did because my men had already started to get their equipment ready in case it was an invading group. Sakura gasped and said I don't believe it. I know Naruto and Tsunade-sensei said you were alive but I did not actually believe it. The girl turned and looked at Sakura and said oh, the pink-haired fangirl. Tell me how are you doing? Sakura had a vein appear and the girl ignored it, and said so what brings this group here Naruto-kun? Naruto pulled out a scroll and handed it to her, and said I'm here to discuss the offer you made in that scroll. Haku looked at it and said I see, so what is there to discuss? I think it was pretty straightforward and what's with the baby? Naruto said this would be my daughter Yuna. As for what's there to discuss, Konoha discovered the secret of my bloodlines and they want me to restore both clans and also to start another one but in order to do that I have to have a harem. I don't really like the idea but I have to do it for my daughter. It's either that or take the chance that they try and use her as breeding stock. Sakura said don't you have a little too much concern there Naruto? I know they want the bloodlines but I don't think they would go that far Naruto. Naruto took out a scroll from his back pocket and threw it at Sakura and said that's the official notification of Sasuke harem Sakura and how far they are willing to go for a bloodline. Don't tell me I am being overprotective. Sakura opened the scroll and read it before gasping and Ino asked what is it Sakura? Sakura handed her the scroll and Ino read it before gasping herself, and she said no wonder you're so worried Naruto. I had no idea they would be willing to do that. Tenten asked what is it Ino? Ino said according to this if Sasuke did not produce an heir by the age of 17 he would be forcefully bred with over 20 women either volunteer or ordered and if in 5 years not enough were produced they would start using prisoners in exchange for reduced sentences. Making all the women present wide-eyed. Haku looked at Naruto and asked so are all these women here going to be your wives? Naruto sighed and said officially they are my fiancés but unofficially they are my bodyguards to make sure I don't run away and also that the others who made similar offers as you make it back to Konoha safely. I came to see you first because I wanted to let you know what was going on, and also to see the old drunk because I need a contractor. Haku looked at the baby and asked who the girl's mother. Naruto looked turned sad and said she passed on. Letting Haku know it was a touchy subject and about what happened. Haku asked how long are you going to be here Naruto-kun? Naruto said we will be here until I finalize my deal with the drunk. After that I am heading to Spring Country. Haku nodded and turned back to the bridge and said with her back to the group I will give you my answer before you leave. I must think about it. And formed an ice mirror and walked into it before leaving. Naruto smiled and said that went better than I expected. At least she did not bring up what happened with Ero-sanin. Sakura asked what did that pervert do anyways. Naruto turned and said they made a hot springs here and Ero-sanin was mad about Haku busting his research so when he saw her in there he used an ice jutsu and froze the hot spring making her get blamed for it. She was barred from going to it for a month. All the girls felt sorry for Haku. Naruto sighed and said let's go meet the drunk. And headed toward the bridge. Chapter 4. After about half an hour's travel they made it across the bridge and soon found Tazana's house. Naruto walked forward and knocked and the door opened and Tsunade was standing there, and she smiled and said oh Naruto-kun, it's so good to see you Aegean. What brings you here and who are all the ladies with you and the baby? Naruto smiled and said this is my daughter Yuna, and these are my companions on a journey. I came to talk to your father because I got a job needing done, and he's the best contractor I know. A male voice said I'm the only contractor you know but it is an honor to do anything for you so what super project do you need the super bridge builder like me to do for you? Getting everyone's attention seeing an old man with a bottle of sake in his hands. Naruto sighed and said I need a house built Tazuna. Tazuna said that won't be too hard so how big of one are you thinking about? Naruto walked into the now larger living room with all the ladies behind him and he said I need probably about 200 bedrooms each with a bathroom, 2 closets each. Multiple flights with a defensive set of chowriders around the central living area, a training area built inside along with a huge kitchen big enough to have 30 people at a time to work in and I need a library connected to each floor and also I need an indoor bathhouse and a nursery big enough to hold 500 or so children. I also want a maze connecting the living area to the front area so that way any unwanted guest who should drop by can find a few parting gifts. Everyone was stunned and Tazuna dropped all joking and said so you decided to build it huh? Naruto said yes. I knew the last time I was here that I would not be able to keep the secret forever so I thought about all the things we discussed and I think those would be above whatever else you think we could use. When you go to Konoha I want you to only discuss it with Ero-sanin and the Hokage herself. Nobody else is to know about what you put in there and I want you to work with Jiraiya since he is a seal master and will be able to tell you a few other surprises. I want to make sure my family is protected, even after I'm gone. But make it where the living area can be added on to with a little work if the family increases larger than what I think it will over time. Also I want a few stores built inside the walls around the land so that way if we need something we don't have to go all the way across town to get the items. Hinata asked why do you want to have a compound that big Naruto-kun and why don't we need to go to town? Naruto closed his eyes and said Hinata, you above all else should know why I want extra security. I plan to have a security wall put up around the lands so that the only way into the lands is through the gates we have put it. I don't want someone to come and try and kidnap one of the children for their bloodlines or one of my wives to get to me. Tazuna asked what's to keep Ninja from going over the walls. Naruto smiled and said leaving the compound won't stop anyone but coming in, and they will have gravity stop them until someone comes and frees them with the seal I know, making all the girls realize what he was talking about. Tazuna sighed and said I really need to learn about seals. Okay, anything else you can think of that might be needed? Naruto thought for a moment, and said besides a private office I can't think of anything, but I am sure with all the ladies here who are smarter than me they could think of a few things. I do have one thing though. Would someone be willing to watch Yuna for me a little bit? I need to go and talk to Haku. Hinata said I will, Naruto-kun. And got up and walked over and took the baby, and Naruto nodded and left the house after giving them the baby supplies. After he was gone, Tazuna dropped his smile, and said so what happened to make him want to go through all this trouble? I know last time he was here it was just a notion, but now he asks like it's a definite. The girls all looked at each other, and Sakura said it's like this. Naruto closed his eyes and felt for Haku chakra and used flame Shushin to appear by Zabuza grave, and he said I knew I would probably find you here. Letting Haku get out of being tense from feeling his arrival, she said without looking at him, what is it you needed to see me about? I told you I would give you my answer before you left. Naruto nods and steps beside her, and said you remember the first day we met. Remember what you told me about being strong? Haku glances at him and a flashback of it hit her mind, and she said I told you that when you have something precious to protect you can become truly strong. Why do you ask? Naruto said I believe that now more than ever. I took those words to heart after our meeting, and it was because of that I wanted to save you so badly that day. It was why I lied to everyone telling them you were dead so that way I could keep you safe. Until I met Rin I never knew for sure why it was that I did that. Haku asked who was Rin and why are you telling me this? Naruto said Rin was Yuna's mother. She was the first to show me the true difference between friendship and love. I told you about Kyubi and how I was always treated because of him, so I never knew for sure what either of them were. I thought that if you were my friend I had to love you. I believe that so much I got this as proof that I was wrong. Raising his shirt showing the scar from Sasuke Chidori, he continued if I had known back then I could have answered you when you asked me why I saved you back then instead of just calling you one of my precious people. That is actually cheaping what I felt for you back then, and I still hold in my heart for you. I know it's not much to hear right now with things the way they are, but I do love you and I hope that you still want to be with me. I know it is not right of me asking you to do this because you will have to share me with other women, but I can promise you that I won't love any woman more or less than I love you. Haku had turned away from him and asked how many do you have to marry? Naruto said the council wants me to have 5 for each clan, but so far I only have 1, and that is I am. The girl I told you about whose dad would let me eat when no one else would, and she was always trying to help me with whatever troubles I had. I knew she cared for me, but until recently I never knew if it was a sisterly love or something else. I guess I'm still a little naive. Haku chuckled and said that's the understatement of the year, Naruto-kun. She sighed and said I need to know something to know how you feel, Naruto-kun. I need you to kiss me. Based on the kiss I will know what I will do. Naruto nods and walks over to her as she turns around, and he puts his hand under her chin and lifts it up and looks into her eyes before he lowers his head down and softly kisses her lips with first a soft peck and then a second one with more passion in it. Haku closed her eyes and enjoyed the moment that went on forever, and finally after an eternity they both pulled away and looked into each other's eyes. Haku smiled and then leaned forward and kissed Naruto with just as much passion as he gave her, but she wrapped her arms around him and pulled him down on top of her. But when they hit the ground they were not by Zabuza grave any longer but in a field of flowers. A field that both of them knew very well as the one they first met in. Naruto broke the kiss and looked around and looked down at the girl in his arms and raised an eyebrow, and she giggled and said you can't blame me for playing hard to get Ken. You. I don't know how often I will get to spend time with you later. Naruto smiled and said you never doubted this, did you? Haku said I did when I first saw your daughter, but after I thought about it, and watched you as your group crossed the bridge I decided I could handle it. Naruto leaned forward and started to kiss her and Haku and was surprised when he felt cold water cover the ground around him, causing him to break the kiss and look down and asked what the hell? Haku smirked and said my cloths were made out of my bloodline as a form of armor. It's why I could be battle ready still in a dress. Naruto processed the information, no noticing the fact his shirt he was wearing just split in half along with the rest of his cloths. He blinked and looked at himself and then at his old ruined cloths and saw that there was a light frost bite around his body, and a razor-thin line of ice went along the side of his cloths, and he said you have gotten really good with your bloodline. Haku smiled and said you talk too much? And flipped him over while locking lips and inserting him all in one motion. She started to move in up and down on him as she broke the kiss, and set up on him, while continued to rock on him. Naruto for his part decided to start sucking on her breast to get some payback for his cloths, and would tease and nip them, getting moans from the girl on him. It was not long until Naruto felt like he was about to come when Haku suddenly used her bloodline to cool him off down there with a little frost, making it where he could not to soon, and he looked at her and said where the hell you learned that one? Haku smiled and said I read it in my mother's diary since that was the only thing I took besides food. As she started to go faster making the frost melt and Naruto get back in the action. A little bit later they both come together and Haku fell on top of Naruto's chest panting. Naruto, after calming down, asked ready for round 2. Haku looked at him wide-eyed and said no. I had a long day before you came today, and then using my bloodline so much I am too tired. Naruto nods and kisses her, and then lets her rest. Haku asked, so what are you going to do about your cloths? Naruto sighed and said, I will henge until I get back to the house so I can get my travel scrolls. Haku nods and Naruto asks, so will you marry me knowing what I have to do? Haku sighs and said yes. I was hoping it could be just you and me, but you are worth sharing. Naruto gets up and helps her up, and she uses her bloodline to make her some cloths, and Naruto henges into cloths like his old ones, and they go back to Tezuna's house. 20 minutes later, when they got there, everyone was looking at them as they walked in arm in arm, and Haku whispers in his ear something and Anko said, so you got her to agree, Gaki. Naruto just nods and Kurenai looks at Naruto and said, why do you have a henge on? Naruto said no reason. And starts to walk toward the bathroom and grabbing his sealing scrolls that has his cloths out of the diaper bag. Sakura, being Neve, puts her hands in a ram seal and said Kia. And Naruto henge dropped, showing everyone he was naked as a newborn baby except for one problem. What Haku whispered was what she wanted to do to him when she recovered and made him have a hard-on, and he just happened to turn facing the group when he heard Sakura say Kia, and caused all the ladies to fly back with nosebleeds. Good thing the kids were in the crib he sealed for his daughter. Laughter from the old drunk and a scream of mom echoed through the house. Chapter 5. It had been nearly a week since the group left Wave Country by ship to head to Spring Country, and trying to forget the little accident with dispelling Naruto body like that. All the ladies had shared rooms with each other, debating on what it was that they were actually here for. Sakura sighed and said, I don't think our mission is as simple as Tsunade told us. Hana said as she took a drink, I agree. She did this on purpose, and pulling the other men off of this trip was intentional. Sure, it sounded logical, but Tsunade has always been a little unorthodox. Ino added, not to mention the way Naruto got us on this cruise ship. Giggling was heard from the side of the room, and Hinata asked, what's so funny, Haku? Haku smiled and said, you mean to tell me you don't know about his little side businesses? Making all the women look at her, Tenten asked, who and what are you talking about? Haku said, Naruto-kun. Apparently while he was traveling with the pervert, he also started to follow in his footsteps in a way, and I don't mean by being perverted. He started buying into companies that were in need of money, or trying to start up. This ship just happens to belong to one of the companies. Making all the girls wide-eyed, Sakura asked, how do you know this, Haku? Haku said, simple really. I helped him meet the owners during his last trip to Wave. He told me that his sensei was not only helping him and get stronger but also teaching him how to gather information for Konoha, just like the pervert does with his books. Ino asked, what do you mean by that? Hinata said, people talk when they relax and enjoy themselves, like at hot springs or on a cruise and things like that. Making everyone look at her, Tenten asked, how do you know that, Hinata? Hinata blushed and said, well, you all know how my mother died giving birth to my sister. Well, no one in the family would talk to me about the birds and bee stuff because of fear of me using the seal on them, so I found out about it while listening at the hot springs, and had Kurenai sensei fill in the rest. After hearing Haku speak about it a moment ago, I figured it out. Shizen narrowed her eyes and asked, how many of you have ever been in the hot springs talking about relationships while Tsunade was there? Each of the girls from Konoha minus Kurenai all raised their hands, and Shizen said, that conniving little match-making bitch. Kurenai asked, what are you talking about, Shizen? Shizen said, Tsunade did not just pick us at random, or who was best at each job. She picked each of us because of the fact not one of us have a decent male in our lives. I am willing to bet a year's worth of pay that she had already had something planned ahead of time before this mess started, and that's how she was able to give our names so easily. Kurenai asked, but what about me? Why would she want me here for if you're right, Shizen? Shizen sighed and said, I don't know. Sakura said, perhaps it's because she found out what Naruto was doing with Konohamaru. She does see him as a little brother or a son, and tries to keep an eye on him. Perhaps she found out that he was looking after you from afar and thought that if you got closer he could help you more or might make you both fall for each other. It could also be that you're the only other one here that has a child. And what's that noise? Getting distracted by the sound of something outside, each of the women turned to the sound of the noise, not knowing what it is, and went outside onto the deck of the ship, and looked until they heard the sound of battle Aegean and looked before gasping. A bright orange frog said, don't worry, bro, we'll handle it. As he was sitting on top of a stroller that had baby Yuna in it, Sakura, having noticed the frog before, asked, what are they doing, Gamatachi? Gamatachi croaked, and said that crazy snake lady told him to get someone to watch his daughter cause she wanted to see something, so he summoned me, and then she attacked him. They have been going for about 10 minutes now. Kurenai narrowed her eyes and asked, why is it taking so long then? Making everyone look at her, Gamatachi sighed and said the snake lady said that she wanted straight taijutsu. After that they have been out there walking on the water fighting. A shout from Anko drew their attention. Is that all you got? And here I thought you were some big strong man who was going to protect all these ladies. Pathetic. And she turned to walk back toward the boat. All the women could not believe she said that, but then chuckling could be heard before laughter was heard, and Naruto said, so that's why you wanted to fight, huh? To see if I was strong enough to protect you from your past. Up with the ladies. Kurenai, Shizen and Hana all three said, oh shit. Making all the other girls look at them, Sakura asked, what? Kurenai just pointed and everyone turned and saw Anko becoming mad, and then when she turned and charged Naruto, throwing punches and kicks as fast as she could, and Naruto started to dodge and smirk as her actions became more enraged, and Naruto ducked under a haymaker that should have took his head off, but when she missed he appeared behind her and held his arms across her from behind, holding her hands, and said, "He's not worth it, Anko. He's dead, so forget him. Start living your life and don't let the snake bastard ruin what you have or what might come your way. He can't hurt you anymore." Anko struggled and screamed, "How dare you mention that bastard to me? You don't know what he did to my life. How he made everyone hate me and treat me like shit. You don't know what that's like to be treated the way people do because of something that was not in my control. Who do you think you?" She blinked and stopped, struggling at the noise coming from Naruto. Naruto was shushing her and said, "I know the pain, Anko. Just let it go. Don't keep it inside anymore. Let it go." In a soothing voice, Anko started to relax and felt something warm roll down her face, and at first thought it was blood until she felt her eyes get blurry and realized it was tears. Naruto turned her around and held her as she started to cry even more. She drew back her fist and punched his chest lightly as she cried even more. The girls up on the deck could not believe what they were watching, and Hana asked, "Okay, how the hell did he just get her to do what no one else could?" Kurenai shook her head and said, "I don't know. She never cries for herself." All the other women were looking on as Anko seemed to lose more energy the faster she cried. Naruto held her for several minutes until she went limp in his arms, and he bent down and picked her up bridal style and carried her back toward the ship that stops at night so anything in the water can't sink the ship, and walked up the side of it until he made it to the deck. He stopped and asked, "Could someone watch Yuna while I put Anko to bed?" Haku walked over and took the stroller, and Gamatachi went up in smoke. Naruto walked to Anko's room she was sharing with Kurenai and Hana and smiled as Kurenai opened the door. He walked in and put her on a bed and covered her up and smiled before turning and walking out of the room, never noticing the smile on her face. Naruto looked at all the women and sighed before saying, "Could you all tell Anko something for me?" Kurenai asked, "What?" Naruto sighed and said as he started to close his eyes, "You can't walk on water in the middle of the ocean like you can on a river. I had to put a chakra platform under us," and fell forward, passing out, shocking everyone. Hana, who was closest to him, caught him right before he hit the deck and sighed and said, "So who wants to take him to his room?" Sakura and Ino both said, "I will," and glanced at each other before walking over and taking him away from Hana. Haku looked at the girl in her arms and said, "I will take care of Yuna." Hinata said, "I will help you." Quietly, Haku nodded and both girls took the sleeping baby with them toward their room they shared with Tenten. Shizen went in the room to check on Anko. Hana looked at Kurenai and saw her watching the girls leave and watched as Sakura and Ino started to take Naruto away. When everyone else was gone, she asked, "What was that, Kurenai?" In a sweet tone, Kurenai blinked and asked, "What?" Hana looked at her like she was stupid and said, "You know damn well what I'm talking about. I saw that look you had when he immobilized her." Kurenai said, "I don't know what you're talking about." As she crossed her arms, Hana snorted and said, "Yeah, must be my imagination. I could have sworn I saw a look of longing cross your face. You know what I thought it was? I thought you saw what he did and how he was being kind and also making her confront herself, and you were thinking you wanted it also. I could be wrong though. I have only been your friend all your life." As she turned and started to walk away, Kurenai, not admitting anything, said, "What about you? What's your take on this?" Hana stopped with her back to Kurenai and said, "My take on this is that of any bitch when considering a mate. You find the alpha male and claim him as you own." As she started walking away, Kurenai asked, "And is he the alpha?" Hana never stopped walking away and she said, "What do you think?" Kurenai sighed and looked at the baby she had in her arms, and she looked out at the sea and thought. Shizen walked into the room with Anko closing the door behind her, and walked over to the bed and asked, "So are you okay?" Anko, who opened her eyes, winced and said, "Gaki has a hell of a right hook. What happened after I passed out?" Shizen sat down on the bed beside her and started to do a medical scan on Anko. Said, "He brought you on board and had Haku watch his daughter as he brought you inside. He wanted us to tell you that you can't use water walking in the middle of the ocean like you can on a river. He said he had a chakra platform below you both." Anko smiled and said, "I know. I wanted to see if he would look out for me without being told to. Orochimaru made me practice doing water walking on the ocean as a sick joke when we went to sea country. He told me it could be done, and showed me it could, but I never knew until after 3 days of trying it that he actually had a snake sitting under the water holding him up. I did the same thing to the Gaki until he sent that chakra platform under the water for us, causing my summons to get destroyed." Shizen looked at her with a look and said, "I heard you were sadistic, but that was just wrong. So why did you do it?" Anko's smile faded and she said, "Gaki hit the nail on the head out there. I guess he really does have that gift those beings said he did. Nobody's ever picked up on it like that." As she looked down at the sheets, Shizen smiled a small smile and asked her, starting to fall for him, "Aren't you?" Anko, not meeting her gaze, said, "I don't know. When I normally look at him I see him doing his mimic dance he did when he mocked me at the Chunin exams. Now I don't know." Shizen nods as she finished healing some cuts and said, "I know what you mean. I already noticed that you're not the only one having trouble thinking of him. I have seen Sakura eyeing him like he is some sort of big puzzle, and she's trying to figure out where all the pieces go. Hinata, we all know, has had a thing for him. Who knows what Ino has on her mind, and Tenten I don't know enough to answer." Whenever she came in the office it was mostly with her teammates, and I would sneak out to get more paperwork and other things. Haku agreed easily though, and everyone seems to be able to like her. Hana and Karina I don't know. Those two I know, and even I can't figure out their logic. Anko sighed and said, can we all be falling for this gaki? Shizen sighs as well and just shrugs her shoulders before getting up and going and laying on her bed. Ino and Sakura sat Naruto on his bed in his room, and Ino asked what is it forehead. Sakura looked at Ino and asked what do you mean Inapig? Ino looks at her with her arms crossed and asked I mean, ever since you found out about all this you have been like a different person. I mean you look at Naruto like he's some kind of lab experiment, and you are wanting to research. Sakura seemed to think over what Ino was saying and sighed before saying I don't know Ino, it's just that I have been his teammate since the academy except when we started to train under the Sanins, and now everything I think I know about him is different. I mean we all thought he was an idiot. Truth is he's not. The only reason he acted that way is because nobody would teach him, and those that did never really cared to show him. We all thought he had no talent, and he is the most talented of all of us. Hell, he's already going to be Hokage in a few years. And she relished what she said and slapped her hand over her mouth. Ino looked at her and said spill it. Sakura took her hand away and said spill what? Ino looked at Sakura, and after a few minutes of the glare Sakura sighed and said Naruto has already been named Tsunade's successor. She just waiting until he's ready to take over. She won't even look at anyone else for the job. The only ones who know it's a guarantee are me and Shizen. She won't even tell him because she wants him to keep working on doing everything he already is. Ino looked at the sleeping Naruto and said so are you going to do it? Sakura looked at Ino and asked are you? Chapter 6. The next day when Naruto woke up he had a bad feeling. For some reason he felt his past was going to come back and bite him in the ass. Naruto took a shower and got changed into his cloths and went toward the rooms where the females were to find his daughter when the ship was suddenly tossed by a huge wave, enough to draw everyone's attention. A few seconds later everyone was running out of their rooms and Naruto saw his daughter with Haku and smiled when the ship was hit by another wave and Naruto looked out at the water and yelled enough Horus, what do you want? Making everyone look at him. The water formed another huge wave to rock the ship and stopped and started to swirl and formed a 60-foot tall person made out of water, and the water said hello Naruto. Long time no see. Naruto snorted and said last time I checked you were still pissed when I kicked your ass for sucking me to the bottom of the ocean and into an underwater sea cave. Horus chuckled and said same as always nephew. Same as always. Naruto narrowed his eyes and asked what's wrong? You don't make visits, especially in front of mortals. Horus got a grin that made Naruto know his past was about to bite him in the ass, but what he did not know. Horus said these mortals are exemptions as possible mates, but I came to give you a warning. Your only true fear is waiting for you an hour away in Spring Country. Someone told on you and they are waiting to ambush you. That is the first of 3 things you will have to prepare for little shooting star. Have fun and I will be watching. And he started to laugh and swirled down, and the sea calmed. All the girls turned to look at him, and Haku asked what was that, and why did it call Naruto nephew? Naruto, who was pale, said it's a long story and I will tell you some other time. As he was looking off into space getting paler by the moment. All the ladies were getting worried and Naruto blinked and turned and said your jobs are to protect me, right? All the girls but Haku nodded and Naruto said I got an S-rank mission for one of you. This got all of their attentions and Anko asked what is it gaki? Naruto sighed and said let's talk inside, you don't know who's listening. And walked toward his room as all the girls followed him. When they got there Shizen asked what's wrong Naruto? Naruto sighed and was looking around and asked I need one of you to impersonate me with my Anahanjan when we get to Spring Country until we see the princess, and I will impersonate the one who does me. All of them were looking at him and Haku asked what's wrong Naruto? Why are you acting scared and what is your fear he was talking about? Naruto looked down and mumbled something and they all blinked and Sakura asked what? Naruto sighed and said fangirls. Causing them all to blink and look at each other and burst out laughing. Naruto looked down and Anko asked how the hell can you be afraid of fangirls when you went after one of the biggest ones for most of your life gaki? Naruto looked at them and said it's different than it was with Sakurikan. This time the fangirls are mine. Making them all blink Aegean and laugh. When they finally stopped laughing Ino asked how can you have fangirls in Spring Country? Naruto walked over to his bag and pulled out scroll and said I got sort of a confession to make, and it can be either good or bad. All the girls perked up at this getting a chance to hear something new about Naruto. The number 1 knucklehead surprise ninja. Naruto bit his thumb and wiped the blood on the scroll and 2 wrapped up posters popped out and Naruto grabbed the first one and looked at it and asked Sakura, you remember our mission here to protect the princess? Sakura snorted and said yeah, she kept running off and you had to keep going and finding her and then saved her from her evil uncle. Why? Naruto unrolled the poster and showed the movie that they made and Naruto said because of that action and a little hidden camera on Yuki herself they made 2 movies out of it, and one was only released in Spring Country. I am sort of in both as one of the main heroes. Making all the ladies start seeing why he might have fangirls as they looked at the poster and saw it was a dual poster that had 2 separate movies on it, and on both had Naruto name on it. Ino asked so you got in 2 movies and you got a fangirl base. What's the problem? Naruto scratched the back of his head and said, well, the thing is I sort of actually co-starred in 2 other movies with Yuki while I was on my training trip, and those movies not only got me a fanbase but basically a cult of worshippers. Luckily one of those was only released in Spring Country so that way my enemies would not learn it was me, who was looking everywhere but at the ladies. All the girls were floored by this and Sakura asked how did that happen Naruto. Naruto sighed and said let's just say that it started out as a bodyguard mission and then a favor and then something else and leave it at that. As he got the poster from Anko who was looking at it, and Shizen walked over while his back was turned and grabbed the other poster, and opened it before dropping it red-faced, and said Tsunade will kill both you and Jiraiya Naruto if she ever finds out. Naruto whipped around and saw the poster on the floor and all the girls were looking at Shizen and Tenten asked what could do that as she reached for it, and both Shizen and Naruto dove for it but Tenten got it, and opened it, and got red-faced and wide-eyed and asked tell me this is a joke Naruto. Still holding it where Noon but her could see it. Naruto sighed and said I am afraid not. It started when Ero-sanin asked her to do a movie for him. She had already read the manuscript right after we freed her country, but it was about 7 months later before I came back here on my training trip and Ero-sanin asked if she would do it. She said she would but she had a small problem that made it where she couldn't. Some of her uncle's followers were still around and causing trouble, and they already tried to kill her once so she asked me to be her bodyguard. The day the movie was supposed to start filming her co-star was killed so Ero-sanin came up with a plan for me to be her co-star while in my Onihenge so I could both protect her and be bait for the guys who were causing trouble. I did not really like the idea but Yuki begged me to and cried and I can't stand to see a woman cry so I agreed to it. We got the main parts of it done with and when I was supposed to be replaced with stunt doubles to do the rest of it but there was an explosion from a trap on the set and hurt the stunt doubles so we changed location to the actual castle for the rest and I had to do the rest myself but it was more than just a job at that point as it was something else. All the girls were star eyes except Shizen and Tenten and Sakura asked so what movie was it and why have you never told us about it before? As she grabbed the poster from Tenten and opened it, and a vein appeared and she Naruto as she turned and looked at him. Naruto sighed and walked toward the door but stopped long enough to grab his daughter and Sakura said you're nothing but a porn star. How many women have you slept with you pervert? 50, 100, 200 huh? I should have known that she stopped when she felt Ki coming off of Naruto. Naruto turned and looked at the group of ladies and they all gasped at the sight of his eyes. It was not either of his bloodlines but they were normal blue but what made them gasp was the clouded over hurt loss feeling they all got from it. And he said Sakura, if you really want to know counting Haku, I am, Rin, Yuki I have only slept with 6 women my whole life. Rin was the first I slept with for love, I am was second and Haku was third. Yuki was because we both had the feeling of loss and hurt and loneliness that only those who have felt the true pains of the world can go through. That was the only reason I even did the movie because I saw the same look in her eyes when she asked me to co-star in it with her I seen in my mirror more times than I can count. I won't tell you about my first for respect of her, and the reason it happened, and the other I won't tell you either because it was the exact opposite. I was in the place of the one who was my first, and she was in my place. I don't care if you think I am a pervert or not. I respect women dearly and I don't just sleep with anyone. Just forget it Sakura. You right, I am nothing more than a porn star but at least I can tell you that each woman I was with I felt complete with, and they weren't empty casual sex either. If you want to think of it like it started Sakura as just a mission to get around and think about the classes most of you are going to have to take when we get back. That may cheapen what I felt when I was with Yuki but it might let your sense of right and wrong feel better about it. And he closed the door walking out. Sakura had tears in her eyes and all the girls who finally saw the poster for Ika Paradise the movie and the extended version of it started to feel bad for what they first were thinking. Ino asked what was that look in his eyes. Surprisingly it was Karina that answered and said emptiness. Making all the girls look at her. She continued I had hoped to never see that look on his face Aegean after the first time I saw it when he was 13 right after your wave mission. Sakura stopped letting her tears fall and asked what do you mean Kurenai? Kurenai sighed and said what I tell you does not leave this room, understood? Not even his future wives, Tsunade or even Naruto can know you have been told about this because it's very personal. As she looked around and saw they all glanced at each other, and one at a time nodded. She sighed and said what do you and Haku remember about that wave mission concerning Naruto? Anything you can think of that might change him more than anything. Haku seemed to think and said his view on what a ninja is and my supposed death before he healed me and being pissed at Inari. Sakura thought and said him and Sasuke saving each other from Haku. Why? Kurenai sighed and said he made his first kill on that mission. Making everyone wide-eyed. Sakura and Haku asked how. Kurenai looked down and said you probably know how Gato sent some men to take Tsunami and tried to kill Inari right? And they both nodded while everyone listened. She continued and said on his way to the bridge Gato had hired another missing nin to come and kill anyone who tried to leave the bridge. Naruto arrived and fought him and got a lucky kill when the guy tripped over a root and fell onto Naruto Kunya. He heard Sasuke scream while fighting Haku so he pushed his emotions away and threw the body in the water before getting into the fight. Everyone was stunned and Shizen asked how do you know this Kurenai, and why did Kakashi never mention it or put it in Naruto record? Kurenai sighed and said he never told Kakashi, and it was just luck I found him before, as she trailed off with a sad look in her eyes. Everyone was curious and Ino asked before what. Kurenai looked at them and said something that shook them to the core before he killed himself, making everyone wide-eyed. Enko was floored and asked as she got over her shock how. Why? Kurenai sat down and said it happened when I had a fight with Asuma. I had went deep into the woods to blow off some steam when I heard someone talking. I went to check it out and I saw Naruto sitting against the tree completely naked with his cloths in a neat pile with a note on it that only had one simple line on it, you win, and his body was covered with enough exploding tags on his body to level Konoha, and he had his eyes closed crying. He was talking to the wind, I guess, or it might have been his relatives that we know about, but I could not tell you for sure, and he was saying that he was tired of all the hate and the guilt over killing that man. I listened because I remember my first kill, and then he talked about how when he got back to his apartment after returning someone had broken Aegean and wrote murderer and monster and demon all over the place and trashed it. The guilt over his first kill, and that was pushing him over the edge. He wanted to talk to Kakashi, but he was too busy with Sasuke, and he could not tell Iruka or the third for fear that they would start seeing him as Kyuubi and none of the other rookies would have been good because you all had your preconceptions of him, and anyone else would have been useless or pushed him more. Everyone was getting teary-eyed, and what Kurenai said next stopped them all. I was broken-hearted hearing that, and when he opened his eyes to take one last look around, something snapped in me and I took out a saban I keep on me and threw it, hitting a pressure point, knocking him out. I walked over and removed the tags and destroyed them and picked up his cloths and him, and used Shushin to take him back to my apartment. A little bit later when he woke up he would not really talk or say anything, and I thought he might have completely shut himself off from the world, so I did the only thing I could and I held him. He flinched at first, and I learned later that that hug was only the third one he ever had in his entire life and the first from a female. He started to cry and I held him, and it broke me inside seeing him like that. He kept asking why did it have to be him? Why could he never be loved and why he had to always be alone? I don't know why I did it, but you heard him say he respected the woman that was his first. Well, you can do the math. As she leaned back on the bed ignoring the looks everyone had. They went from teary-eyed to wide-eyed in a split second. Enko asked, no, don't tell me that you and the Gaki. Kurenai sighed and said he is the only guy I slept with in my entire life besides Asuma. Now that you know what his situation was with his first, you can figure out what the other one was, but you don't know who. Hinata was looking at her teacher and asked Sensei, you slept with Naruto-kun, and she could not say any more. Kurenai sat up and said, yes, Hinata? I slept with him, and no, I don't regret it one moment of my life. It was one of the reasons why I had no problem with you continuing to have a crush on him, because I knew he was a good person. I don't know what was the feeling that came over me that made me choose to do it, but whatever it was, I thank every moment afterwards after I saw the man he grew into. After that day we never spoke of it, and we never saw each other until the Chunin exam's second rounds. He just gave me one of his true smiles while no one was looking as he walked by, and that was all I needed to know, that he cherished the moment we had as much as I did. I never told anyone about it because of all the hate, and I did not want to see him get hurt anymore because of me, so I kept it a secret as he had until now. Sakura looked down and said, I guess that I screwed up then. It's just when I saw that poster it made me pissed off for some reason. Kurenai looked at the poster and whistled and said, damn. Making everyone look at her. Ino asked, what? Kurenai asked, have any of you actually looked at the extended version of this film, or what it says on a side note? They all looked questioning, and she read the actor and actress did this movie in one shooting for the fans. Total time 11 hours 22 minutes. Making all the girls fly backwards from blood loss and Enko and look at Kurenai as even Shizen had passed out, and asked, so he was the guy who made you bow-legged for a week, about that time, huh? Kurenai had the decency to blush and said, one thing he is definitely is a stamina freak. 14 times in one night. I never had so many orgasms in my life as I did that night, in every room and every way we could. Hell, I think I lost 5 pounds just from the sweat. Enko laughed as she looked around the room and said, I think I go the perfect way for Pinky to make it up to him. He needs a double right. Kurenai smiled and nods, waiting for the others to wake up. When everyone had woke back up and cleaned up the mess, Enko and Kurenai told Sakura their plan, and she agreed, so now here she was in an Oni henge that Naruto is powering, going through a mob of fangirls from the age of 40 on down to 10, and they are saying things like, marry me, I want to have your children, can we go out on a date, and she thought, Sasuke, wherever you are, I am sorry if this is what it was like for you. Will they please quit grabbing my ass and my front? Ino for her part looked at her friend and thought, was I that bad? Naruto, who was henged as Sakura carrying Yuna, said, scary, isn't it? Making everyone who was watching Sakura get carried away by the mob shake their heads. Naruto sighed and said, come on and let's get on the airship Yuki sent so we can make it to the castle in an hour. Once we are on board I will dispel her henge. And all the ladies took one last look at Sakura and quickly walked to the airship. A few moments later Sakura came back with pieces of her cloths torn and looking completely flushed, and she said, I'm sorry Naruto, and to Sasuke wherever the hell he is in the afterlife. May he rest without that hell. Naruto dropped his henge and said, now you see why I feared it. One of the crew came to Naruto and said, sorry for the interruption sir, but Her Majesty would like to see you in the royal chambers ahead, so please follow me. Naruto nods and turns to follow him, and the ladies start following as well, and the servant stops and said, I'm sorry, but she would like to see him privately. Naruto stops and asks, could one of you watch Yuna? And Ino took the baby and he followed the servant, while the others looked at each other. Sakura asked, what do you think that's about? Enko said probably she wants some more fox meat. Making all the girls blush. A shout of what? That sounded like Naruto made them all look toward the front of the ship, and a few moments later the servant came back and said they would like for you to come. Now, all the ladies looked at each other and followed him to the front of the ship, but the sight that greeted them was not what they expected. Princess Yuki was sitting in her chair smiling as she looked at Naruto, who was sitting on the floor. That would have been enough to get a laugh except for the fact that Naruto was sitting in the floor holding two little 2-year-old blonde-haired blue-eyed boys, and he looked up at the ladies who made it to the room and he said, hey, I would like to introduce Name and Kaze to you. Ladies, these are my sons. Making all the girls wide-eyed. Kurenai smiled at the happiness in his eyes as he said that, and sighed as she asked, does she know why we're here, Naruto? As she set her own son down on the floor since he can walk a little. He crawled over toward Naruto and the other kids, and Yuna saw this and made a come motion like she wanted her dad, and Naruto nods toward Ino, who brought her to Naruto. Yuki said yes. Tsunade sent me a message along with all the others I was told that was interested in him, so I have had time to think about it, and I have agreed to also join in. I would hate for the boys to grow up without their father any longer, and I hear that they have a little sister. I assume that's her. Naruto said yes, her name is Yuna. What happened next made everyone wide-eyed and look at each other as Kurenai's son Asuma looked at Naruto and said Daddy. And then both Name and Kaze looked at each other, and then at Naruto and said Daddy. And then all three of them started shouting it over and over and over again as Kurenai got over her shock of what her son had said and was about to reach for her son when a hand went on her shoulder and stopped her. She glanced back at Enko, who leaned forward and said in a whisper, I know what you're about to say, but look at all four of them and tell me that you honestly don't like that. I mean, all three boys act like they're already brothers, and with Yuna giggling at them, what's wrong with letting them believe it for a few minutes? Kurenai whispered, but what about Asuma? I don't want his son to forget him. Naruto glanced up at Kurenai and Enko and said in a soft voice, Konoha, the village hidden in the leaves. A village that prospered like none ever, and a village where everyone is part of a family. Whether by blood or breath, we each share the same thing that makes us strong. The will to protect that which is most important to us. I may not be your father by blood, but even if your mother finds someone who would be your father for you, I will look after you and her just like I will my own children and wives, because you are each a part of my village, and in turn a part of my family, and are both my precious people. Asuma was a great man who came from a great family, and would be proud of you for carrying on his name's sake. You will have brothers and at least one sister, if only in faith, little one, as he looked at the kids playing around him, quite enough to make the kids think he was only talking to them, and just loud enough for all the adults to hear him. Yuki had heard the kid call Naruto that, and she saw the way everyone was acting, so she just sat there for a moment, and waited to see what was going to happen, and when she heard Naruto say that she thought the village is his family by either blood or breath. If so, then I too will become the family of the village. With a smile on her face, Haku thought those were the words I told him years ago, and he has made it into his lifelong dream. I knew he was special, but even I never knew how much. Thank you for letting me be one of your wives, Naruto-kun. Enko thought the will of fire that the third always talked about. Yugaki have it stronger than anyone else in the world. You will make a great father, and someday a great Hokage. Sakura thought, why was I so blind in life I could not see what kind of hero he was? To think I nearly lost my chances to be with someone so great. I guess I need to think about this more. You know, I never knew Naruto could speak like that. It makes me feel like I could do anything and everything to protect all that I care for. You truly are a hero, Naruto. Hinata, now everyone sees what I see in you, Naruto-kun. Tenten, I said it when you fought Niji, Naruto. You truly are amazing. Hana, his heart is still pure even after all he went through. I feel ashamed to be a part of a village that could do what we did to him as a child, and I can see I could be by his side, so do I want this. Shizen, you truly are a great man, Naruto. Your wisdom goes way beyond your years, and your heart is big enough to care for the world. Kurenai looked at Naruto and heard what he said and felt like crying tears of joy and sorrow at the moment. Asuma, I know I will always have a spot in my heart that belongs only to you, but would you mind if I share a little of my heart with him? I think he would care for me and our son as well. I won't let your memory disappear, and I will let our son know who you were, but I believe that Naruto just might be enough to remind me of you and our son as well. As she smiled a true smile as she felt a warm feeling in her heart she thought was Asuma blessing it, and said, little Asuma, you can call him daddy anytime you like, and the others brothers and sisters. That is if Naruto would let it. Making everyone look at her and realize what she was saying, and Naruto looks up at her and asks with his eyes, are you sure? And she just nods. Naruto smiles and said, I have no problem with that. Yuki smiled and said, nor do I. I think the more the merrier. Give me time to recover. Haku blushed and said, tell me about it. Kurenai smiled and said, no joke. Making everyone look at her and all three ladies understand the meaning of what they were talking about, and nods. The others in the group just shook their heads, though Naruto wondered why no one said anything about Kurenai but left it alone. It was her choice to say anything. The rest of the way to the castle was with small talk and introductions and a few laughs, mostly at Naruto's expense. What if Naruto returns with a wife and child? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.